Okay, everybody. Welcome everybody to the Central Committee stream with your host Mike from PA. We are live. We are live once again. How is everybody doing today? Holy shit. We've got one more month of this fucking guy being a subject of conversation. And then it'll be over, I swear. It'll be over, I swear. It'll feel like a year. I mean, obviously, I think we can move on. You know, we can move on from the conversation with Graham Platner into a larger conversation about how do we turn. I don't know if it's possible. You know, I've been thinking a lot about the online left, and I think with Hassan and me, we were spending a lot of our time with like candidates, and we were helping them raise a bunch of money, and we're doing all the volunteer work. It started to feel like this space was becoming more mature. Like it was finally starting to turn all this energy and attention that goes into these spaces into something deeper. It felt like we were actually doing something with it, right? And I kind of forgot about everybody else in the space. But this Platner situation is making me remind myself, no, actually, most of the people in this space do abso-fucking-lutely nothing. Or Muzzy, thank you for the 10 tier ones. And they're actually just chirpers. That being said, I mean, listen, like, how do you put this? When you actually have strong, like, an actual purpose, when you're trying to get power, not just talk about power, when you're trying to get a movement power, it's different, right? There is a space for people who are just chirping. I mean, if you're bringing viewers to YouTube, they don't care what you're talking about, really, as long as you're not trying to actually fuck up their back. You know what I mean? You could talk about anything. They don't give a fuck. Talk about Gramsci. Talk about Marx. Talk about the crimes of the CIA. As long as you're on the infinite scroll, they don't give a shit. But the moment you're actually starting to try to change anything, now you're going to be treated a little bit differently. And I think for the perspective of the watcher, you guys think that because a content creator calls themselves left-wing, they face the same frictions as those people who actually engage in politics. They do not, right? Look at the way, for example, that the deprogrammed boys were treated following October 7th when they were thrown out of Nebula, right? All those content creators that remained in Nebula did not give a shit. They did not give a shit that these guys were thrown out of Nebula for supporting the Palestinian cause. And they still don't. It's not like they got back in and everything went back to they've changed their position on Gaza, but they haven't changed their position on the people they mistreated because of their position on Gaza. You see what I mean? There's no accountability that flows in that direction. There's no accountability for the people who distance themselves from people for speaking out on Palestine, right? There is no accountability that flows in that direction, right? They make money, they don't give a shit, but then they try to stand in judgment of other people, and I find it a little bit galling, to be honest with you. And this is I'm not speaking about FD Signifier. I'm talking about the entire Nebula universe. I'm not talking about FD. I think FD's video was completely, as I said, when I watched the FD Signifier stuff, and we watched it on stream, and I just simply said, I don't agree with the idea that we can leave a Senate seat to Susan Collins. And thankfully, we're not doing that. Graham Platner is dropping out. He's going to be replaced. We're not. My goal is to try to get a pro-Palestinian candidate in there. That's the only thing I give a shit about, is pushing the ball forward on every opportunity we have for anti-Israel candidates. That's my only goal. Sometimes by trying to do that, we're going to have misfires. And anybody telling you that this is something that could have been avoided, the avoiding was getting Janet Mills. Janet Mills, a super AIPAC. And if you don't give a shit about the United States Senate, then okay. Like if you don't take it seriously, the idea that the left should have power in America, fine, right? And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are actually serious, to be honest with you. And I don't know how to I don't know how to engage with it. Yesterday we talked about the idea of there's no systems. We don't have institutions. The left is basically, the left in America is popular sentiment, meaning there's a kind of a left-wing milieu. Like if you talk to the average person, they'll say they're left-wing, especially in our circles. But if you talk to the average millennial, they'll say they like Bernie Sanders, they like Medicare for all, they like this. They consider themselves to be left-leaning. It's very rare that you'll run into a situation where people are not claiming to be left-wing. But are they part of DSA? Are they organizing? Are they actually, do they have a plan to achieve anything left-wing? No, it's a kind of self-conception. And obviously, listen, I'm not trying to be a dick because that's like almost everybody that watches this stream and Hassan's stream and everything else. Not trying to be a dick about this stuff, but that's not a serious movement. We don't have a serious movement. Honestly, if I'm being brutally fucking honest, I think the last 6 months is the first time our movement has started to become serious. I think for the last 7 years of my life, I've been trying to get us to the point where our movement has started to get serious. And Graham Platner is a remnant of the old American left, which is unserious. He's an unserious candidate. He's actually a disgusting predator piece of shit. But he is the product of an unserious left. I've seen people analyze like the way he was recruited, the consultants, fight agency, as if they're analyzing the CIA or something. This is just a handful of people walking around places and going, you know what? I think that candidate might be a good candidate. That's the American left. And by the way, he won. He won the fucking primary. The American left is just some fucking guys wandering around. And again, no one, and like what the crisis is, I don't know how to make people listen to what I'm saying and comprehend it. Because I think it's the most profoundly important insight that I've made in years. And the ideas are brutally true and they have to be fixed immediately. But I don't see I don't see seriousness. None of the seriousness arises from Graham Platner. No, exactly. Graham Platner is a symptom of the fact the left in America is unserious. We have an unserious movement. That's why they're melting down over New York City DSA. It's because it's the first time the American left looks serious. The reason why they're scared after what happened in Denver when we defeated a 15-term incumbent. Because it's the first time the DSA actually looked like a fucking movement. It arises from organizing by DSA. The left, or those who consider themselves left, should never have gotten in bed with the Blackwater mercenary. I completely agree with that, but I also, it's not the left that did, it's the people of Maine. The people of Maine are so desperate for any kind of a drop of left-wing leadership that they glommed onto that freak. It wasn't me. I didn't make Graham Platner. I didn't recruit Graham Platner. He was blowing up on his own. You guys made Graham Platner. He was going viral online. I didn't make the guy. No, I'm not saying that I'm not part of the people that said you should support the guy as a, avatar of attacking. But I was hoping and I was trusting that they wouldn't put up a psychotic rapist or a guy who was obviously guilty of war crimes. Oops. And I think that this is the point, is like everyone, if you're still trying to point fingers at someone else instead of yourself, and that's everybody, by the way, then you're part of the problem. Is we don't have a serious fucking movement. And like a lot of our, so-called, people talk about Troy Jackson, deploy Troy, all that stuff. Really important. I agree with it. But the problem, and this is a serious point. The problem is he's the same thing. He's not coming out of our movement. He's not emerging from a serious left-wing organization. People talk about, wanting a third party or a socialist party. What the fuck are you doing to build it? Because the only one we have is DSA, and half the DSAs don't even run any candidates. Rhode Island DSA is refusing to run anyone in a Democratic primary. One of the bluest states in the country, they're refusing to contend for the Democratic primary where they could win. Kui Stream says, the reaction to this entire thing is bizarre too. Being on the left is consuming a bunch of L's all the time and learning and moving on from it. This should slide off the water on a duck's back. We should learn that we need DSA-affiliated cadre at every state. We should incorporate learned lessons from Maine into that DSA vetting process. This isn't as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. He sucks dick. We take the L, we learn, we move on. But it's not about that. You understand that, right? Because the left is unserious. We have nothing but clout farmers. right? People are going to sit down and listen to people who don't do goddamn thing for the American left-wing movement and treat them as if they have a fucking like legitimately the people that the guys and gals and non-binary pals that people try to get me to engage with discourse in are unserious. They really are. They don't do anything. They're not responsible for anyone. At most, they make content like that. And that's what people seem to want. You guys seem to want. Now, not you guys. I'm just saying that in general, there is a lack of sophistication that I don't know how to break through because it's boring. Anyone that spoke up and said their mind going against Platner, they were derided as the problem derided. The problem is the politics. It's saying black leftists are going off vibes when they have white lefts have analysis. To be good, you just have to agree to go along or get dogpiled. Okay. I think that like okay, let me just say a couple things. First of all, I totally hear what you're saying. It's completely reasonable to have been skeptical of Graham Platner. The problem is that everyone thinks their job is to sit back as some sort of, like you're a food critic and saying, that food isn't to my taste. What the fuck are you saying? Why are you a consumer? What are you building? What candidate have you recruited? What DSA are you a part of? What is your organizing? Show me your fucking receipts. And like, if you're hearing me say that and go like, oh, Mike, you know, I don't have to do that. Yes, of course you don't. So why? But again, unserious left. We have an unserious fucking left. A rapist and a pedophile got to the White House because we have an unserious left. And yes, I blame Bernie Sanders for that. Yes, I blame our leaders for not making something new. We're just starting to get something. And Graham Platner, and here's the truth nuke, Abdul El Sayed are part of the same dysfunctional process. Now, I like Abdul. I think he's great. I want him to win. But his connection to the movement is because he went viral. You know, he is an individual. He's not a democratic socialist. He's not part of DSA. You could say he's part of the movement because he's part of Bernie Sanders and he wrote the Medicare for All policies, and like he's maybe a little bit more directly connected to Bernie than Graham Platner was, and all that is true. But what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is the way that people talk about this shit, you talk about it like you are sitting at a table waiting for me to serve you politics, waiting for Hassan to serve you politics. It is a profoundly liberal way of doing it. And most of the people that are engaged in this conversation are doing it from a profoundly liberal way. And I don't know how to get people to recognize that the way that everyone is behaving is what got us to this point. And obviously, you know, I refuse to be cynical. I refuse to become like Bad Empanada. I refuse to become cynical where I just see this as a money-making opportunity and just to talk. I refuse to be like that. I am trying to turn you guys and gals and non-binary pals and this stream into something that is useful for humanity, even in a small way. I don't think I'm changing the world by myself. But if I could help a candidate raise a couple bucks and get crossover to viability because they're part of DSA, that is how the world has changed. One, that has to happen 1,000 times across the country. We had no primary for Cory Booker. Where is the videos calling out Cory Booker? Where is the leftist community that is calling out the people that get along and go along with AIPAC? Where's the videos talking about the corruption of a lot of the class of politicians? And I can't even speak about it because it'll be spun in a way like I'm being some sort of bigot. There is an honesty and be cynicism, and in my humble opinion, that's why people like him. Yes, that's the exact same reason people like Trump. It's the exact same reason people like Trump. They like him because he lets them get, it's moral licensing to act out their worst impulses. It's a psychological concept called moral licensing. Self-licensing or moral self-licensing is a term used in social psychology and marketing to describe the subconscious phenomenon where increased confidence and security in one's self-image or self-concept tends to make the individual worry less about the consequences of subsequent immoral behavior and therefore more likely to make an immoral choices and act immorally. That's all that's happening with Bad Empanada is moral self-licensing. If you want to know what is happening, oh, you guys are actually bad. You support the empire because now I can mistreat you, dox you, humiliate you, slander you, bully you, whatever the fuck. That's all that's happening. There isn't some sort of, it's not like it's a part of a project. It's not like it's going anywhere. It's not like it has any responsibility. What is the responsibility? I have a question for you, chat. And I have this is for everyone, and see if you can answer it. What event are you responsible for? If something happens in our politics, what do you feel responsible for? What are you responsible for? I mean, and the answer is nothing. Fucking nothing. And that's the point. Our brains are so rotted by first worlder consumerism. We look at politics like whether or not we're going to watch a show on Netflix or something. Oh, the main Senate race? I don't really like that storyline. Switch to the next thing. I'm going to talk about Star Trek all day now. I'll switch over to the next show. In fact, I'm moral if I do that. I'm moral if I don't give a shit about anything. Or I just opt in to a couple things along the way. And I don't know. I mean, like, this entire rant doesn't even matter. It actually doesn't even matter. It's not going to make a goddamn difference. Because none of these people, I mean, the narcissism in our industry is so virulent and so overwhelming that it's not like it's going to get through to anybody. BE is fundamentally a liberal subject, and if you track his output, you can see the path of the liberal subject with a basic sense of decency being radicalized into a vengeful nihilist. What happens when your politics is divorced from movement politics. That's exactly right. And by the way, that's my problem with Graham Platner is he is the result of our politics being divorced from the movement. Our movement has only been serious since Zoran Mamdani's win. Zoran Mamdani is the beginning of a serious left in America. Everything before Zoran Mamdani was a fucking joke. He's the transitional figure who used the techniques of the unserious left before him to start building a real serious left. The hardest, honest to God truth is we were a fucking joke. And my hope was that with AOC running for president, we could scaffold something off of that. But to my chagrin, we're actually doing it before she ran. And like, I think a lot of people don't like me saying that. And it's true. Our entire political movement. I mean, like, guys, again, I don't want to call out anybody in particular because I think they're nice people. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble for this. People are just so, they're just fans. They're just stans. I can't analyze things without people. It's going to be stans. It's going to be stans. You can't criticize something from in a constructive manner. People are going to, they're stans. All right, fuck it. I don't care. Kat Abou-Ghazaleh is exactly the type of candidate I'm talking about. Not part of the movement. Went viral online. Very successful at posting. You know, like, moves to Chicago. Doesn't run against a Zionist, right? Not part of DSA. Not part of any of the local movements. Built herself off of the ability to post well. And you know what? She did a really great job. Like, she, honest to God, and I don't mean this, I'm not saying this as an insult. I'm saying this as analysis. And I actually think she did a hell of a job. And it's damn impressive that she was able to get Daniel Biss and take him to the fucking wire. That's actually goddamn impressive because the desire for authentic pro-Palestinian pro-Palestinian politics is so strong that she almost pulled it the fuck off. That's incredible. And I hope Kat keeps going. The thing that concerns me is that just like Graham Platner, Kat Abou-Ghazaleh, and obviously, again, I'm not inside. I want to help Abdul El-Sayed. I like Abdul. I want him to win. He's connected to the movement more than either Graham or Kat was, by the way. Right? Like, Abdul is kind of like a transitional figure. He's like AOC or Zoran, which is they're part of the movement, but their success came from winning the virality game. Right? It didn't come from something else. Right? Like, and I don't know how to, I think this idea is fundamental to my worldview. Like, the reason why I've been DSA Mike from the beginning, proud, like, if you look at my channel, I've been trying to support DSA. I've been trying to get people to be more involved since day fucking one of my stream. I've been trying to help create our own institutions of power. And it's finally starting to happen. It's finally starting to happen. Just now. What was that? I don't like when you combine brand influencing and politics. That's just the way it goes, man. That's just the way it is. That's the only way it works. Okay, this guy's just posting. What is this guy posting? Guys, just time him out for like a day or something. I'm in DSA. I got DSA candidate Katie Wilson endorsed and was neighborhood captain to get her elected successfully. I forced Pramila Jayapal to a dual endorse after she supported the incumbent sex press protector Bruce Arnold. Hit me up. Yeah, no, Gwen Nefarious. That's exactly what I'm saying. How does Summer Lee fit into the non-aligned framing? She was part of the movement, and then it imploded on itself, right? Like Pittsburgh tried to have a serious DSA, but it imploded on itself, right? Because we had a bunch of kind of grifty fucking, you know the types, woke one grifters, and they imploded the shit. Kat is doing amazing work. She's doing the praxis. I'm glad she's supporting other candidates I like. My point is that, like, the reason why we've seen the movement we've seen, the reason why things have gone the way they've gone is because we've relied on random internet luck or people being good at posting videos and then not getting them the viral attention they need to get small grassroots donations from around the country. And it's random. It's not based on something firm. And just in the last few months have we actually matured into something different, which is you have a local DSA that has a cadre candidate or somebody they're very closely organizing with, and then Hassan brings in that attention from his pre-existing community, and then we fucking bomb this race. We give them a bunch of money. We throw them a bunch of volunteers. They run really strong on the fact that the masses are already aligned with us politically, and then things move on. Things improve, right? And then we have a DSA cadre candidate. And I think the thing that this morning rant is really for me to just kind of explain to you guys that we're at the precipice of a serious left, and honestly, like, Graham Platner is the remains of the non-serious left, right? Like, it is. Like, he is the result of not having real shit. And like, I don't really think anybody looks particularly intelligent based on the Graham Platner stuff. In fact, I think we all look like shit. I think I definitely look like, I feel like I went against, let's be honest. I don't like this type of shit. I've never enjoyed it. I don't like the fact that we have these like doofuses go viral and then we all have to pretend like they're intelligent and know what the fuck they're doing. But it's like, well, this is our only way to defeat the establishment scum, and we're creating opening space and making people more interested. We could try to filter that into something new. But now we're finally starting to get something serious. Okay. I don't know where it went. Hold on, let me pull it up. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Claire Valdez is exactly the person that I was talking about. Claire is that movement candidate. And let's be honest, she's the one people talk about the least. People are talking about Brad Lander all the time. They're talking about Daria Lisa all the time, but they're not talking about the person who won by the most. Claire is like the least viral of all of them.
And one thing I really love about your platform is that you talk about to end all weapons sales in Israel. And so I'm curious if you can talk a bit about what that would actually, would that be like a full arms embargo? And I ask that because, some Democrats want to kind of split the difference. They'll say, let's block offensive weapons, keep funding defensive weapons like the Iron Dome. So is that a distinction that you accept?
No, I don't. I think we have to end all and that's really that's following our own laws too. Israel is clearly has been for years. This is really simple. Our tax dollars should not be going to uphold genocide tied point blank. And so I don't see offensive and so weaponry. All of that might toward enabling a state that is genocide, that is leading us into wars in Iran, displacing people in Lebanon, and just want to say too, solidarity, and I hope that your family and everyone you care about are safe. But this is a result, of course. But this is a result of a long history of the United States writing to Israel, and now the theater of their has spread to the Lebanon region, and that would not have been possible, as you say. And so we have to remove all aid, period.
And then, maybe this is, I don't know how to discuss this, but would you support a scenario where there are like sanctions against Israel in the way that there was apartheid South Africa?
I know, I think like all kind of, we have a lot of tools and a lot of diplomats.
So as you guys know, Claire came on my stream. We talked about all this stuff, right? And of all the candidates, I would say that Claire Valdez is discussed the least. Like, I'm sure if I go on some of these streams that I've talked about 80 times about Graham Platner and I searched up Claire Valdez, do you think you're going to find her name even mentioned? Serious question. And if the answer is no, why the fuck not? You know, if I was, you know, I don't know if you noticed this, chat, but I have been focused on elevating people like this, as well as commenting on the people that are going viral, you know, because I'm playing the fucking game. But then I noticed that some people only talk about the viral conversation. They never try to use their platform to build anything up. No, part of why is malicious apathy, but it's also just because the race was a blowout, so there wasn't any thrill for people. Part of the problem with content politics, it was never a blowout. What the fuck are you saying? It became a blowout because of the work we did on this stream and on Hassan's stream, and of course the DSA that is built up over years in New York City for building one of the best organizations of the left in the entire country. It was only a blowout in hindsight. Was it a blowout going into the race? People thought it was within 5 points. I'm the one who said it would be a blowout because I paid close attention. Everybody else thought it was going to be close. Literally, everyone else thought it was going to be close. I was the one who said it was going to be a blowout because I paid attention and was there from the beginning and gave her tens of thousands of dollars through this community. Said this to you 3 times now. You should run for DSA, be a part of the decision making to run more candidates. You have the numbers from Hassan in chat. Said to you this 3 times now. That's not who decides to run more candidates. The chatter. Oh, I mean, listen, I'm mad at myself. I'm really mad at myself. I'm mad at myself because I don't know what to do. I mean, like, I already have a lot of people that are trying to tear me down. There's not a lot of people that are actually constructive in the space at all. You know what I mean? Like, there are not people that are actually doing any real work other than like Hassan. It's actually really frustrating. And you know, I think a lot of people, like, you know, even now, you know, when we look at the situation with Graham Platner, there's just a bad faith and a viciousness about it that is disgusting to me. People did not support Graham Platner because they wanted to ignore the fact that he was a military contractor, or he was he was a veteran, or he had bad Reddit posts or anything. They were not supporting Graham Platner for that. They were supporting Graham Platner because he was the only opportunity they had to vote against the genocide. He was one of the few people saying, hey, there's a genocide in Gaza. Hey, it's this. He hijacked our movement because we didn't take advantage of the opportunity. Because there was no DSA candidate who ran. Some dipshit just ran with no vetting. And so our views, our politics, which is why he was popular, not him, not his backstory. It wasn't because white people wanted to see a veteran, a black. It's not they didn't vote for him because he was an alcoholic PTS veteran. He was getting support because he was saying the thing about Israel, and he was standing up against AIPAC. So we, instead of having somebody from our movement, a serious movement, running someone serious, a grifter got it. And that is the crisis. And all the people criticizing Graham Platner, they're not building that. They're not part of that. They're not saying, see, this is why we should have run with so-and-so, who is a movement leader that wanted to run for Senate but didn't get the support. It's not a serious conversation. It's a baby conversation for grifters on TV. And that's what pisses me the fuck off. Right now, DSA is swelling in size. I mean, I had conversations, like, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. In LA, I had conversation with people months and months ago, and I said, we need to run more candidates for more offices. And a lot of people said to me, oh, we don't have the capacity. And I said, that's not how capacity works. When we run exciting people, we'll get more candidate people to join. And they were like, no, we have too much capacity. We have the city attorney race, and we've got 3 city councilors. We don't want to run somebody for mayor. We don't want to run somebody for Congress. We don't want to run anybody for state legislature. We've got 3 city council races and the city attorney. What do you even do to that? What do you say to that? And then what happened? Within 2 months, 3 months of that conversation, DSA in New York City wins a massive slate, and we gain another fucking few thousand members because at least someone across the country is actually doing something. And the capacity that apparently I thought we were maxed out, guys, suddenly expands again. But because we didn't have any ambition, there's nowhere to go with the energy. There's no campaign. So all this energy is sitting there unused, and it gets sucked up by fucking grifters like Graham Platner, because the DSA, except for in New York City, is not running like a serious political party that wants power in this country. And that's the feedback. That's the problem. That's the issue. And instead of people standing up and going, you know what? The problem is we didn't have our own candidates running in our own spaces. We didn't have enough people to see this thermostatic effect coming, which I saw coming, and I told you guys, which is what I got right. What I got right was seeing that when Kamala Harris lost, that was going to be our opportunity for the left, because and it's what I've been saying for years, right? And yet we got it right, and then what happens? We're not ready. The West Coast is full of evil people who value their lives on their proximity to wealth, fame, and nepotism. The sooner you learn this, the more it will make sense. The East is actual working class Americans who don't cope about one day being a millionaire. I don't think that's true about the entire West Coast. I think right now there is I hear what you're saying, East Coast for life, but no, I don't think that's true. I think what's happened is people it was socialist winter after Joe Biden won. People were leaving DSA in droves. We didn't have anything. We couldn't convincingly run for power, right? We couldn't convincingly show people, hey, we're going to pass Medicare for all or free college or anything. And then there was the genocide, right? Like, that is the reality. This is your prediction from last year. I feel like we're going to win. I don't know why. Clip this in a year or two, and maybe I'm just crazy. But it, honest to God, feels like we're going to win. I could just feel the energy, and I could feel the way that people are turning away from corporate media, which was the last way that Democrats could control their base. And it feels like people are finally just turning away from it in a really fundamental way. It feels like we're going to win. I think, like, ultimately, this is what I want to say. So thank you for listening to my opening rant. The Platner shit, if I'm being honest, it's because there's not enough plausible candidates, DSA candidates, that are also topics of conversation that people are interested in. It's like every time I do an interview, I lose 1,000 viewers, because most of the time I'm trying to bring people up, not just draft off of people that are already popular, right? Talking about Graham Platner made you money because he was viral already. Talking about Claire Valdez got you fucking nothing. And yet I do it anyway. Hassan does it anyway. If you look at the worst streams of the year, it's when I'm trying to do real work. That's how this game works. And the chirpers, they never do a goddamn thing. And they're not responsible for anything. In fact, they smirk at how they're done doing this work. They're gonna go and be happy and rich. And I find it fucking gross. There's a goddamn genocide in Gaza. We have fascists in this country staring at this midterm, very clearly wanting to do some Nazi-ass shit with ICE to intimidate people at the polls. We've got an establishment Democratic Party that's ready to kick off a second Red Scare. And we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and there is no urgency. Where's the fucking urgency? You and Hassan need to push DSA membership every hour, every stream? I mean, we'll figure it out. I find it gross, but people's brains are stand cultured up. It can't. I know. You don't think I know people are stands? You don't think that I have, you don't think I recognize stand culture? I've been talking about it for a long time and telling you it is what it is. Every day I have stand culture in my face. I'm on this side of the camera, chat. I have people trying to shade me, trying to defame me, trying to tear down what I've built every fucking day. You don't think I know that? But knowing Mike, he will procrastinate, never do it. He has been saying he will join DSA directly for a year. I am joining it. I am doing it. When Kamala was put up, I really took to heart, paraphrase here, fight all the way to the booth and vote how you need to. And I'm applying that to Platner, but now it's bad. I do understand what you mean on the politics of it all. It's more of how we're treating each other when opinions don't agree. If the candidate sucks, you fight till you walk to the booth. No, that's exactly my entire point, man. I completely agree with you. There has to be a national strategy from DSA. Many chapters are content being niche without trying to gain actual powers, but a national strategy will push them to expand and run. It's also way too easy for someone to completely seize a chapter, turn it into a pseudo cult, and the national DSA should be more involved in preventing and fixing that. I agree completely. All right, let's watch this dumbass motherfucker so we can move on. we have to put a point on this. And obviously we're gonna, obviously this is not great. I don't love it. It's frustrating because fundamentally it makes people dumber.
Hey everyone, the things that it has placed an immense amount of weight on me. Think about Amy and I are regular large for working a person accuse you of the worst thing that a person, and it was.
I think the thing that bothers me the most about this situation is that for months and months and months now, the campaign, which was flush with cash and resources, have been aware that there had been allegations, and they took no steps whatsoever to investigate. They just hoped that it would all be fine, right? And obviously Graham Platner has lied and lied and lied and lied and lied. Mike, the video is 1/10 of your volume? Really? It sounds fine to me. Huh? Is that true, chat, or was that only that one chatter? It's pretty quiet. Okay, I'll boost it.
I learned about this through press with no time to truly respond, no time for investigation before a corporate media system and the political establishment got to act as judge, jury. Accusations are supposed to be the beginning of, not the end. I think it's really important to understand why this has happened in the time, why this is happening right now. Much like October, first attack started, much like the news that was created the week before the primary, there is a reason that this is happening now. I only have until July 13th until I am officially the nominee. This was the last week to try to get me off of the ballot, and that's why this has occurred.
Reportedly, the people who had recruited him told everyone they had fully investigated his background, but clearly hadn't. They lied their asses off. I mean, the thing that bothers me is it's like, when I had a political consulting firm that was a small little firm and I was recruiting people to run for fucking town or county council or whatever, or state senate, I would say to them, let me see all your socials. I would say to them, how many girlfriends did you have? Have you been arrested? Were you ever addicted to drugs? Have you ever used drugs? Like, having actual conversations. By the way, I also did a mutual NDA, which apparently he didn't have with Genevieve McDonald, right? Like, this campaign is one of the most incompetently run campaigns I've seen in a very long time, because all this shit, I mean, if you're running for Senate, you should have said, give me a list of all your girlfriends. And did you have a bad breakup? Do they hate your guts? This is basic shit. And then I would say, give me their contact information. If he said it was a bad breakup, I call them on the fucking phone and say, hey, investigating this guy, running for a very important position. A lot of people are going to be put in a position where they have to trust him. I wouldn't say anything more than that. And get these people, like, actually investigate. I mean, when people are trying to, when a 22-year-old is trying to join the military, they do these background checks for secret clearance that were more in depth than this guy running to be a senator. It's fucking embarrassing.
It's not the false allegations, though, that have brought us to where we are. It's the fact that they're being used by the political establishment to put structural pressure on us. We live in a political system that is not built for normal people. It is a system that is built structurally to make sure that movements like ours cannot flourish, that if they begin to succeed, they can be crushed. What we have accomplished here, you made possible. The people of Maine, the volunteers, the voters, the grassroots donors, and I have all the faith in the world that we could win if we could continue to harness that. But the brutal political reality is that.
Let me pose this question. Bushra ran as a DSA candidate having West Illinois' recommendation. That's not endorsement, and she wasn't part of the organization. And you know what I mean? Like, and recommendation is an endorsement. Like, Graham Platner was recommended, he wasn't endorsed. And I know that people try to pretend like this isn't different. It is. It is. Endorsement means you're actually going to go all in to support the candidate, which I like. I like that distinction. But there was no endorsed candidate in that race.
They are going to take everything away from those in power who have the ability to do so, are using these allegations as an excuse to take away all of the things that we need to run a campaign. We are going to lose our ability to fundraise. We are going to lose our ability to access voter data. We are going to lose all of the things that any campaign needs on the basic level simply to function.
Yes, because they think you're gonna fucking lose, because everybody who's ever seen a rape allegation knows that's exactly what you were accused of. And you admitted, and you were given the opportunity, by the way, to clear this up. When the New York Times story came out months ago, you had the opportunity to go and have this information proven, and you waited and you said, oh, there's nothing else that's going to come out. This woman dated you. She dated you recently. This isn't ancient. This isn't older than like. There's another thing, chat. I need you guys to understand. This is not an allegation from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. This is an allegation from a few years ago. It doesn't get much more credible than this. I mean, if you don't think this is a credible allegation, then there's literally no allegation that you would consider credible. And so it is the Democratic Party's duty. It's all of our duty to throw you the fuck out of the race because you failed the basic task that you were given, which is be a viable candidate for the politics of the moment. And you are a narcissist, and so you're pointing your fingers at everybody else, even though they're doing the right thing, which is making sure we beat Susan Collins and contain Trump and take the Senate away from the fascist Republican Party. And you want to make it about yourself because you failed to be a good person. You failed. And you are a narcissist, and you put yourself up because that's the only way you could look at this background and say, yeah, I can make it. I can make it. Miguel, what do you say to those who criticize you and say that overlooking his previous stint in the military makes one believe that you think that killing raping Browns abroad is less impactful than his current rape allegations? Not saying I agree, just giving you a chance to respond. I think that those people are being unserious, and there isn't allegations that he raped people abroad. He served in the military, and those people are engaging in fantasizing about crimes that they don't have any direct evidence of. Now, personally, I gotta say this second corollary to that, which is they're absolutely right about the Blackwater shit, and they're absolutely right about the fact that we overlooked the number of tours that he did, as recent as they were, going and working for Blackwater as late as he did. It doesn't track. It doesn't track, which is why these guys and gals, they ended up being right, because it didn't make sense. And they're right about that. But this rape allegation is so beyond the pale credible that you'd have to be insane not to change. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't read every single Reddit post. The Reddit post I saw was the post about how he was organizing for helping trans people learn how to use a gun, and that we need to stand up to fascism and things like that. I could have done a better job of reading every Reddit post. Maybe I'd have a different opinion. I think at the end of the day, the critique of Graham Platner as not a suitable vessel is dead on accurate. And I don't begrudge anybody for saying that. I don't begrudge anyone for saying that, but we were put into an impossible dilemma. Do you support somebody who says they're pro-Palestine and gives us the hope of stopping the genocide in Gaza by wrenching power away from the fascist Zionist parties? Or do you just give it to Janet Mills and Susan Collins by default? And that is the impossible situation everybody was put in. And a lot of people were saying, who cares about a Senate seat? And I think that's where I respond to them. Our politics is immature. Do you think Zionists are saying who cares about a Senate seat? Do you think AIPAC is saying who cares about a Senate seat? How come our politics is so goddamn immature? How come you guys can be satisfied with 3 fucking congressional seats out of 435? Winning Claire Valdez, winning Daria Lisa, winning Maylot, winning Chris Rabb. That's 1%, less than 1% of the House. How are you satisfied with that? You think that AIPAC would be satisfied with 5 fucking people in a congressional cycle? So that's the problem that we're in. But that does show that we were complicit and we should have replaced him a year back. I don't think anybody who's criticizing Graham Platner feels like they have a responsibility to do anything, right? They don't have a responsibility to do anything. They don't have a responsibility to recruit candidates in every seat. They don't feel like they're to blame for anything. Their only goal, the only role they see for themselves is sitting on their ass and saying, I think that guy might kind of suck. They don't think they have a responsibility to do goddamn thing. I mean, John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are representing Georgia, and they're both Zionists. And they get praised by these people. So I don't think there's any fucking, I don't think, you know, people going, we shouldn't have had this guy run. Well, okay. Thanks, man. What are you doing to build anything new? Absolutely fucking not. Does the second largest leftist streamer have that responsibility? Do I? Do I have the responsibility to recruit every Senate candidate? And I can't. It's impossible for me to do that. All I can do is help build up the organization that I've been trying to build up for 7 fucking years called DSA. That's my responsibility. And hopefully some of you who live in Maine will recruit a fucking Maine Senate candidate instead of leaving it up to some fucking guy who went viral.
Larger organizations, the national level party, the bigger donor networks, they have all committed to spending no money in this race if I'm in it. They would rather see Susan Collins win than have me be the next senator from Maine. What comes next needs to come from the people. Needs to come from the people of Maine. Needs to come from the voters who on June 9th, at a strength of over 150,000, the largest number in the history of Maine primaries, said no to this kind of politics. Voted for a politics that would actually represent them. Voted against the political system, against the donor class, against the entrenched forces. And I'm not asking for how this process is going to work. I'm not trying to dictate to anyone who it should be or how we get there, but I will say this. It needs to be open, transparent, and democratic. It needs to be reflecting the will and the values of the people that built this movement, the people that showed up on June 9th. People in DC need to stay in DC. Decisions should not be made in back rooms by people in places of political power. Party apparatchiks are not the ones to make these decisions. These decisions need to be made in the open by the people of this state. The people.
Do I think the race is cooked now that the Maine Dem Party have decided to have a nominating committee? No. Basically, here's what I believe. If we get a solid progressive candidate, we'll win. If we get somebody who's pro-Israel, who knows? It's gonna implode. So obvious. That's my feeling on the Maine Senate race. Are they dumb enough to try to go and get somebody who's way to the right?
People who got us here. This is exactly the kind of political system that everyone voted against on June 9th. And for that reason, we need to be assured that it is going to be open and democratic as we move forward. Amy and I struggled about getting into this. Last summer, right around this time of year, we sat down and we looked at each other and we said, if we believe in the kind of politics we think that we do, we have to do that. Over the past couple days, really yesterday and today, we have had to have that exact same conversation. We believe that for the movement to continue, it can't be made. And for that reason, we are suspending campaign op.
Fucking finally.
This is incredibly difficult because I know that some will think it's an admission of guilt, and it most certainly is not. We're not doing it because of the allegations. We're doing it because of the structures that are being taken away in power. And I also feel an immense amount of responsibility to everyone who has worked so hard to get us to where we are. We went toe-to-toe with one of the most entrenched political systems in the history of the world, and we won. We beat them on June 9th in overwhelming numbers. We did it the right way. We built a campaign. We engaged in electoral politics. We motivated people. We banded together. We did it the way that we were told we are supposed to make change. And we won. And now they are not going to let us have it. Not if it's me. And so we're suspending campaign operation. I want to make clear, though, I intend to file my paperwork to withdraw. The process needs to assure that what comes next is reflective of the Mainers who on June 9th turned out and showed that they are desperate for a different kind of politics. It needs to be driven not from back rooms, but by the will of the people. And the decisions that come next must come from that. All we were asking for was health care, was to end a genocide, to use our taxpayer dollars at home to uplift our communities instead of waging war over. We were asking for a fair system. We were asking for an end to the corruption, the end to the money in politics. We were asking for real democracy, and we did it the right way, and we won.
Bro, your win was based off of a false conception of you. See, the problem with narcissists is they have nothing inside. Ultimately, he has nothing inside. And so he thinks that whatever he's perceived as is what he is. Bro, people would not have rallied around you and supported you if they knew about this from the beginning. Your victory was based on a false conception of you. And unfortunately, buddy, there's another election against Susan Collins. And the only way she wins is if somebody like you is running against her. Somebody with credible allegations of sexual assault and rape from multiple people, including another woman accused you of stealthing, removing a condom without her consent during sex. You won't win because the false conception of you has collapsed. The real you is what everybody sees. And that's the only way Zionism prevails. That's the only way Susan Collins prevails. So sit the fuck down, go away. How dare you even run in the first place? How dare you look us in the eye and say that you regretted your the wars and you were anti-war and that there was no more scandals while you were covering shit like this up. Multiple women have come forward about your abuse. It's not just one right-wing grifter who has a reason to lie. And anyone buying into the idea that this is let me just put it to you straight up. It could be a Zionist smear campaign while at the same time being true. One does not preclude the other. Yes, Israel wanted him out because he was anti-Israel on his policies. Yes, the establishment wanted him out because he was, supportive of progressive politics in his supposed positions. But that doesn't mean that he's not also a rapist. It doesn't also mean that these stories aren't true. Both can be true at the same time. And our movement is harmed by association to this guy. All of our reputations were damaged by association with this guy. Every single one of us who promoted this guy is going to look like a fucking dipshit for a long while because our credibility is now damaged by association to this guy. It is what it is because he abused that credibility and he lied. And this isn't, and the nature of the accusations are, this isn't he had a DUI 10 years ago. This isn't he got into a bar fight. This isn't he shoplifted a candy bar. This is a home invasion sexual assault. This is violations of consent. This is, what are we talking about here? Get the fuck out of here. Anybody defending this guy is completely off the rails.
But now the ball is in the court of the Democratic establishment. My name might be on the ballot right now, but that ballot line belongs to the people of Maine. And on November 3rd, it needs to belong to the people of Maine. And the next Democratic senator for Maine needs to belong to the people of Maine. They need to reflect the will and the values of the people of this state. I love this state. I love Maine, and I love Mainers in ways that I can't really describe.
We also gave it plenty of leeway and ignored red flags out of desperation. It's desperate. Guys, it's desperation. It was desperation for a new kind of politics. It was desperation for the idea that we could take a Senate seat. I mean, that's obviously true. Are you not desperate? Are you guys not desperate for change? Are you comfortable with the status quo? Do you think things are going okay? Of course we're desperate for change. I'm not ashamed to say that. And he took advantage of us. But that gives us, we have a responsibility to clean up our own fucking mess now, don't we? I wasn't and will never be that desperate. I wish I was as privileged as you. I wish I was as self-centered as you are. I gotta be honest with you. Because there is a literal genocide going on where children are starving to death and living in tents. And his opposition wants that to continue. I'm sorry you didn't want your reputation possibly damaged with that by association with somebody that had a shoddy background that ended up backfiring. I'm glad that you were able to stand back and stand by. Also, notice it's about you. Notice the way you wrote, it's about you, you fucking liberal. And I mean, maybe that's not even an insult to you. Maybe like when I call you a liberal, it doesn't even hit because you are so politically inert. You don't get what I'm saying. You don't feel the scorn. Our movement, and maybe you consider yourself a part of it, I don't know, is weak, desperately weak. And we are facing off against international institutionalized fascism. They're designing drones that will come, quadcopters, and shoot you in the head. And they're doing it to the people in Gaza. And you don't feel threatened? Every single one of you should understand that we are on the precipice of death. It's not an exaggeration. We don't have time. They're spending $1 trillion for these data centers. Do you think it's because they want to produce wealth for every human being on the planet and make life great for everyone and reduce the drudgery of work? Is that why you think they're making these data centers? You think they're making these data centers to liberate humanity? They're making it so they can run the Hey Daddy program and kill every left-winger and force us all into subjugation.
I'm immensely proud of what we have built, and I have the utmost faith that we will continue to build and we will continue to move.
Mike, is it your take that if Platner gets to appoint a successor, they will fail because of the association with him? I think the closer Platner is to a candidate, the worse they're going to do, right? Because, again, what does he do? What does he bring? However, he should endorse the process of replacing him. He should say this is legitimate. And, as long, and I hope that's what happens. I hope they pick someone progressive enough that all of us could get behind them. I hope they don't try to force some fucking Zionist in there, which they're trying to do.
Towards a better future.
Christo-fascists back up their moral monsters and tank all this kind of shit for power. People should call for his removal, but tactically, he should have looked right at the camera and said, fuck it, I'm saying it. I'm staying in. No, because he would lose. The difference between the right and the left is the right is morally depraved. That's why they're right-wingers. They like domination. They like rape. It doesn't bother them that much. The right is fucking depraved. They like these crimes. They don't give a shit that Trump went around molesting women. They don't give a shit. They think it's funny. The left is full of the people that are harmed by oppression. We are supposed to be the better people. We can't tank it. We'll destroy our own base. If you're evil, you're right wing. No one's confused. Honestly, we already tanked way more than we should by the fact the guy was kind of a piece of shit from the beginning. And we were looking past out of hopes that he was redeemed because we were desperate for an anti-Israel candidate. It's not that complicated. That's the answer. Now, it's not viable. He's got to go because he's not viable. My entire reason for supporting anyone is to destroy Zionism. If you hurt the cause of destroying Zionism, you're fucking out.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank all of you. And keep fighting. We're going to win someday.
Quick reminder that if the Dem candidate is an anti-AIPAC, they will almost certainly lose. Overall voters, 44% less likely to support with AIPAC endorsement. Independents, 54% less likely. Dems, 64% less likely. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, called AIPAC, is a pro-Israel lobbying group that endorses both Democratic and Republican candidates in the United States. AIPAC and affiliated super PACs spent over $100 million in their election efforts in 2024. Some argue that an interest group with the purpose of strengthening U.S. support for a single foreign government puts U.S. interests at risk. Others argue that lobbying groups are a healthy part of the American system, that the U.S. and Israel share many interests. Would an AIPAC endorsement make you more or less likely to support a candidate for Congress? Even Republicans. Nobody likes AIPAC, although 25% of Republicans said more likely. That's crazy. Hopefully we can move on as quickly as possible past these fucking scumbags. Did you see the Marsha Blackburn campaign? Okay, let's move on. I'm done with this Graham Platner shit he doesn't. Now the only reason we'll talk about Maine is to talk about the process to replace the guy. Fuck him, it's over now. U.S. is doing fresh attacks on Iran, chat. Looks like the Strait of Hormuz is closed again, and the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is running dry.
How hard am I gonna crack down on China? Well, here's a clue.
Marsha Blackburn worked with President Trump to take on communist China. As governor, Marsha will fight to protect Tennessee land from Chinese front companies, close loopholes, and hunt down every communist who tries to defy us.
It doesn't take a fortune cookie to figure it out. Here in Tennessee, we're going to stop communist China and protect Tennessee land.
I don't know if you guys know this, but the fortune cookie is American. Like, I know this point is like, I know it's kind of a joke, but like this shit is American.
Welcome to our channel where
Okay, this is not, oh, fuck you.
There's no food more tied to the American Chinese restaurant than the humble fortune cookie. A crispy, crunchy dessert with a little piece of advice hidden in the center. Funny thing though, did you know that fortune cookies aren't even originally Chinese? They're loosely based on a Japanese tradition.
Japan had a history of always creating fortunes that were sold inside goods in temples, public areas. And this custom was actually brought over from Japan to the United States.
There's still some debate about the specifics, but one thing is for sure. The fortune cookie was invented not in China or Japan, but in California. Today, many companies make the crescent-shaped cookie, but the Peking Noodle Company in Los Angeles is the largest and one of the oldest manufacturers in the U.S.
My grandfather, Mr. Tong Ying Wu, started the company in 1914. He thought that there was a good need to have Chinese food for the many immigrants.
Their product line eventually expanded to include fortune cookies for Chinese restaurants. But let's get to what you really want to know. How do they get those little slips of paper inside these things anyway? Well, just like with
We
any
gotta find this out. We already learned that it's American, right? We gotta learn about how they get the slips in.
other cookie, it begins with batter.
The secret to fortune cookies is to use the right amount of oil and the right amount of flour to have the perfect shape, the perfect size, and the perfect crunch.
So every ingredient is measured out carefully, one by one. First, soybean oil, then the vanilla and coloring. Oh, and don't forget the sugar, and plenty of it.
Approximately 320 pounds of sugar are used per batch.
All that sugar goes into a high-speed mixer, where it's joined by water and flour that gets pumped in from a silo.
If you eat these, you are not. I'm sorry, Chad. I will forever be a fortune cookie enjoyer. More fortunes for me.
More than 500 pounds of it for each batch of cookie batter.
Then the batter is transferred into tanks that will feed each of our machines.
And here's where
Industrial food is so cool.
things really get interesting. First, the machine squirts out a row of 6 circles of dough. Then, top plates come down and cover the dough to keep it in a perfect circle as it enters the oven. They cook in that oven at about 140 degrees, but they don't stay in there for long, just 30 seconds.
Celsius or Fahrenheit? I guess Celsius, right?
Each oven, it averages out 1.2 cookies per second, and that would make it about 2,000 cookies in total per minute.
That adds up to about 133 million a year.
That's a
And
lot of
now,
fucking
the
cookies.
star of the show, the fortune. The company has been writing, editing, and collecting them for decades.
The cookie is scraped off the plate, where it will then transfer to a conveyor where the fortune is inserted into the cookie and then formed.
That happens in a machine called a molding press. First, a tiny arm picks up the fortune using air pressure. Then, it places it in the middle of the circle of dough, while 2 arms come down and fold the cookie into its famous crescent shape. And it all has to happen really fast.
Even a deviation of a couple of seconds can mean that the cookie will harden before it enters the press and no shape will come out.
That is cool. And it sure beats the old-fashioned way of folding fortune cookies by hand.
I had an uncle that was doing it, and he told me one day that he didn't have a fingerprint. They were essentially burned from all the heat.
Ouch! Whew. Nowadays, these cookies get to cool down on a conveyor belt before anyone has to handle them.
This is cool.
The cookies then make their way to an assembly line where a giant funnel controls the wrapping rate.
The funnel releases each cookie individually, one by one, into the wrapping machine.
Rube Goldberg ass machine, dude.
Now they're ready to be boxed up and shipped off to restaurants, where they'll play their starring role in the enduring Chinese-American end-of-meal ritual.
There's nothing better than opening up a fortune cookie.
If you're just getting here, you may be like, why the fuck are you playing this? Which, understandable, but it's because of this.
How hard am I gonna crack down on China? Well, here's a clue.
Marsha Blackburn worked with President Trump to take on communist China. As governor, Marsha will fight to protect Tennessee land from Chinese front companies, close loopholes, and hunt down every communist who tries to defy us.
It doesn't
I mean, like, honestly, this is for a governor of a state. No one's going to Tennessee, bro. No one is going to Tennessee. What the fuck are you saying? What the fuck are you saying?
Take a fortune cookie to figure it out. Here in Tennessee, we're going to stop communist China and protect Tennessee land.
Okay, what is this aesthetic? I know maybe I'm being misogynistic here, but like, what is going on here? Why does she have fire engine red lipstick on? Like, what is going on? This the racist grandma. I mean, she's like, she filmed her Karen crash out at the local Chinese restaurant.
Tennessee.
Also, like, how embarrassing for whatever restaurant this was filmed in. Like, what the or maybe it's a set, which would be even more expensive. But like, what the fuck is this? All right, let's talk about the story that's actually fucking insane.
President Trump just a short time ago, hours ago, declared that in his view, the U.S. ceasefire with Iran is over after the two countries traded a barrage of new strikes in just the last 24 hours. Watch this.
Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
The memorandum of understanding between the two countries apparently collapsing now as President Trump attends the NATO summit in Turkey. The president has also now reimposed sanctions on Iranian oil sales. That's a key reversal of a big concession that was part of the latest ceasefire. It was part of this memorandum of understanding. Trump also called the negotiations with Iran a waste of time. Overnight, there were large explosions and fires seen at multiple ports in Iran. Those strikes are said to be the U.S. response to Iran launching a series of attacks on commercial ships near the Strait of Hormuz this week. Let's get to CNN's Kristen Holmes. She's live in Turkey for us following the president's travels. Kristen, what are you learning about this right now?
I mean, Kate, President Trump was incredibly angry. He was only meant to do some welcome remarks coming into NATO, and you saw him completely let loose. Part of what he seems to be angry about is this idea that the United States gave some space to the Iranians so that they would be attending the Supreme Leader's funeral, and then instead they were striking these commercial vessels. So now you have him saying that he believes the MOU is over, but he did leave the door open for potential negotiations, which is making a lot of this much murkier. Take a listen to what he said.
They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, but they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. They're liars. They're bad people. And frankly, I don't want to waste my time with them.
And later he called them lying guys. He said they were a cancer that needed to be cut out. They were evil and sick. And you can just see this escalation from President Trump, who really has had this war in Iran hanging over most of his presidency now for much longer than he anticipated.
I want to bring in now Kurt Volker, former U.S. ambassador to NATO. Thank you so much for being here on what is now turning into an eventful day. The president saying that the ceasefire that they had negotiated, their memorandum of understanding, is over after some attacks on ships in the Strait of Hormuz. I want to play a bit for the president for you to hear.
Wow, I can't believe we predicted this would happen exactly as it's happening. They violated the memorandum of understanding. Wow, I can't believe it.
Here, and then we'll talk on the other side.
They can talk, but I think they're wasting their time. Frankly, I don't want to waste my time with them. Now, I'll let our wonderful negotiators keep talking if they want, but I don't see it.
Okay, Ambassador, you know what it's like to have to keep talking. What does this mean for people who had been tasked with continuing this conversation?
Right. I think President Trump is just trying to ratchet up the visible frustration, try to put more pressure on the Iranians, see if he can get them back to a situation where they're not attacking anything. What happened is the Iranians attacked some vessels that were trying to go through the Omani side of the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians don't want that. They want them to go through Iranian waters where they can gradually establish a regime of control. Of course, we don't want that. But the problem is that we may want it or not want it, but if we are not prepared militarily, physically, to defeat the regime and prevent them from doing this sort of thing, this is where this is going to go. I don't think President Trump really wants to restart the war. He may get forced into it, but I don't think he really wants to. So he's trying to
What? He started bombing. It's so insane how like Western countries could do like physical attacks. So they go, we don't want to restart the war. You attacked. It's really amazing what people will say.
Tougher now to back up his negotiators to see whether he can get things back where they were with this MOU a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you were asked, I think just last night, about Greenland, and you said that Trump has a kind of routine. He complains, he criticizes, he says people aren't doing enough, and he keeps threats on the table. And I thought, gee, that's kind of applicable to this exact moment.
Yes, it is. That is the playbook here. He will do that, and he'll never concede anything. So even with Greenland, for example, I don't think he was planning to bring up Greenland at this summit at all, but somebody asked him about it. So he says, yes, of course it's still on the table. Of course it should be ours. And I think that is what he's going to do with the Iranians here, step by step. Keep putting the pressure on about the Strait, keep putting pressure on about the nuclear issue, try to get to something that he can actually live with, which is no fighting so that oil prices and gasoline prices stay down.
If the ceasefire is over, does that mean Israel still has a kind of green light to continue its fight with Hezbollah in Lebanon?
Well, I think that's a very
with
good
Hezbollah, and it's invading Lebanese territory to annex it. Like, what are we saying?
point, because the Israelis will certainly take it that way. I think President Trump would like to feel that he's in the driver's seat. And so if Israel is going to attack or not, he would like to be the one who says so. But I think the Israelis are going to look at this and say, okay, if anything happens, if Hezbollah does anything at all, we have a green light. We feel free to go after them again now.
It's interesting that this NATO summit is happening in Ankara. People look at Turkey in a lot of ways as a sort of gateway between the East and the West, and it is at the center of this kind of Gordian knot of international issues, right? You've got Zelensky there trying to get support in its war against Russia. You've got Turkey asking the U.S. for access to F-35 fighter jet, kind of the most advanced fighter jets, and Israel saying, no, don't give it to them. It feels like the president actually...
By the way, Israel isn't in NATO because they don't believe in fighting if anybody else was attacked, right? Like, being in NATO would require them to actually commit to a mutual defense. They only like us defending them. They don't defend you.
There's a lot of spinning plates here.
Yeah, well, there are. And just look at the geography. I mean, if you pull up a map, you've got the Black Sea, Ukraine, and Russia to the north. You've got Iran and Iraq to the east. You've got Syria and Lebanon to the south. Further down, you've got Israel on the other side of the Mediterranean. It is a region that has a lot of issues. And Turkey is a very large country, very capable country, militarily, economically, and they play a role in all of these issues that we care about. Most of the time, U.S. and Turkish interests are actually aligned, but there are a few cases where they diverge. And in all of these cases, it's really important that we are talking to the Turks and working with them because it could go very badly if we don't.
And we should say, despite their requests, we're seeing reports, CNN reporting now that the Defense Secretary Hegseth has actually canceled his trip to Israel, where he was supposed to sort of soothe concerns about this potential sale. What are you going to be listening for now? Is it J.D. Vance that has to come out and say technical talks are still going if the Iranians play nice? Is it Hegseth? Kind of what are you expecting to see today?
Well, a couple of things. One of them, let's not forget, it's the NATO summit meeting. So I think it would be important for NATO to say something condemning the Iranian attacks on shipping and supporting freedom of navigation in the Persian Gulf. Very important that NATO...
Bro, we sneak attacked them and assassinated their leader. And now you're going like, oh, we should respect international norms. What, are you okay? God, CNN is such... If I want propaganda, at least I don't want it to be boring propaganda. You know what I mean? Like, God, CNN is fucking boring propaganda. So, just in, Iranian targets obliterated as Strait of Hormuz crisis unravels. So, CNN's report, 13,000 views. Fox News report, 441,000 views.
So we begin this morning in the Middle East as the military carries out
I
a second
understand
night
4 versus whatever, but CNN is a lot smaller.
of airstrikes against Iran.
Greg Palcott joins us live from London with the latest on Iran. Greg.
Lawrence, Brian, gang. President Trump promised it, and the U.S. military delivered. Another night of airstrikes against Iran. CENTCOM saying some 90 sites were hit, including port cities along the Persian Gulf coast, an airport, and bridges further inland. The second night in a row of U.S. targeting. And that was followed again by Iranian strikes against U.S. military locations in 3 Gulf nations, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. Missiles and drones used in those attacks. All this disruption of the temporary ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. triggered by Iranian hits on 3 ships traveling through the Strait of Hormuz earlier this week. Iran thinks it still has control there. On his way back from a NATO summit in Turkey, here's what President Trump said on Air Force One.
They're sort of crazy, to be honest. They're sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal. Badly.
In response, Iran's top negotiator, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, posted, America still hasn't learned that bullying and breaking promises are no longer cost-free. Let me put it plainly, if you strike, you'll get hit. Negotiations between the two sides regarding the 14-point memorandum of understanding had been paused for Iran's funeral proceedings for its former supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, killed in the first days of the conflict. The body, which had been carried in processions in next-door Iraq as well as Iran, is set to be buried today in his hometown of Mashhad. Folks, it's not clear whether all of this means the restart of full-scale conflict. Trump did add that anything that happens is going to happen very fast.
Well, thanks so much, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
So what is it, 90, and then the day before 70, so over 150 strikes in 2 days. I'd like to know details of it. We don't have the details of it, but the one thing is pretty clear. Whoever signs the 60 days memorandum of understanding on the Iranian side.
It looks like we didn't have 60 days after all.
They won't have any power, so we should not even pretend that they do. So let's just say the speaker's sincere, the foreign minister's sincere, that they hate us, but they don't want to fight us. They want to be able to unfreeze their funds. They want to be able to sell their oil at market rate. And let's say they want to control the strait, but they know that that would be problematic. The guy that's making the decisions is a guy from the IRGC, this Ahmed Vahidi. So we should not sit down with anybody else. This guy's as evil as it gets.
Look at the videos they're showing. Guys, look at all the money we're wasting. This is why there's potholes on your fucking exit. Drive around LA for one day and then go watch these videos and not be fucking disgusted. Drive around LA. Just drive around downtown. Just drive around. And then look at this stupid ass shit.
But if
nice.
we don't deal with
Big
him,
homie gay ass.
we should not deal
that's
with
really
him.
good that you joined DSA. Chat, everybody celebrate Big homie gay ass. He joined DSA. Big homie gay ass. Thank you. Awesome. Nice. That's awesome. I'm really happy that you joined DSA. That's great. Just say Mike from PA. That's why.
Anyone. Because the Supreme Leader's too scared or too disfigured to come out of his bunker. He doesn't even go to his dad's funeral, so forget about him. So it's about this guy who's running the CUDS force and the IRGC commander. So because either these guys don't control it or they're just talking out of both sides of their mouth, but they refuse, as of this hour.
It's so funny. Like, everything they say is projection. Every word. They're showing attacks that we made, which, by the way, like, you could just tell how old Donald Trump is. He thinks the strategy that worked for the first Iraq war, where we had grainy videos of airstrikes against Saddam Hussein, and there was a 90% approval rating. Like, he thinks it's gonna work. He thinks this shit is going to work.
Refuse to give up their gradual control of the strait, which is going to be a fee and toll system. And if you look at the memorandum, the MOU, it says that they're going to be managing this strait. We're not going to allow it. And that's fundamentally what happens. They hit 3 ships, and they have absorbed 150 shots.
So part of the problem is that after we took out all the leaders, at least the first 2 levels, the Iranians had a goal, and the Supreme Leader left a plan to decentralize power. And I think this is by design. He realized that it would have brought them to the hill, and the IRGC has all the weapons, and they're firing on these shipping containers. And they realize, because of what we've telegraphed through the media, that the gas prices are going to be affected right there. And so they hope to pressure the president to make policy decisions strictly based on the gas price. And I think the president is annoyed with them right now. He realized that they're a bunch of liars. He's always realized that. But I also think there has been credible threats against his life. And it shows, Emily, that the president was quite angered by that yesterday.
Indeed. And he still has economic...
I mean, like, the idea of just showing this dumb video as B-roll while they're talking, like, don't people feel embarrassed? Like, doesn't the average Fox News viewer, don't you feel embarrassed by this? I mean, apparently not. Like, but just showing the same dumb B-roll is insane. I gotta see the comments. They've been jerking our chain all along. Please finish this. Doesn't seem like they want to make a deal to me. If they wanted a deal, there would already be a deal. No deals. Finish the job. They're liars. They're never gonna make a deal. Finish this and stop with the rhetorics. Every single one of these are anonymous accounts with numbers. No more deals. Obliterate everything they own that could blow up or be shot from a barrel. Every single one of these are one sentence bot comments. Bring the sunshine. I guess this person is arguing for a nuke, right? I guess that's what they're arguing. As stupid as it sounds, I think the Iranian funeral goers threatening Trump might have actually been the tipping point for him. Did you see Miskiv's tweet? He released a screenshot of Asmongold Emiru chat of him using the N-word as a password and Emiru laughing it off. Emiru is just... she's just Asmongold. She's just a female Asmongold. You guys know that, right?
And many military options. So those that consider this an escalation leading to, quote, war, the reality is that they have quite a large hierarchy of decisions militarily that simply show the Iranians that when you strike, in the words of Vice President J.D. Vance, we will hit the hell out of you back. And the triage necessary right now is to maintain the Strait of Hormuz so that it's not subjected to piracy, right? We have to ensure the economic and the sort of navigable benefit of the Strait of Hormuz, because right now, if Iran is in control, that has that global impact. And when we harness the energy possible from it, then we show we, A, don't need them, but also that the rest of the world is aligned with us in ensuring that they don't hijack it.
If you don't want to be doing this up until November, you got to hit them hard now in July. You know, everyone's like, oh, it's too close to the midterms. They said that in May.
Yeah.
So now it's getting, you know, you hit them hard.
Now it's getting
give them
close.
everything. Now it's getting close.
Mike, if our news that we're saying we're doing is saying we're going back to war, why are the markets and oil acting like we're not at war? You know, the markets have continually believed that the United States had the ability to plug the reserve and that it would be irrational to do it, right? In much the same way that Hassan and I thought Russia invading Ukraine would be irrational, the markets think crashing the market by plugging, you know, the oil markets actually freezing to a halt, that's irrational. So oil stocks in the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve have fallen to the lowest level since 1983, 43 years ago. But I'm sure it's going to be fine.
Closer, but still, it's still July. But the smaller hits, let's talk about it, probably work to Iran's behalf, because there's reports that they want to make President Trump Jimmy Carter. They hurt Jimmy Carter, stopped him from getting reelected. Ronald Reagan comes in. They wanted Carter out. They want Trump out, but they can't get him out. But you know what they would do? They would take away a lot of his power.
So in the Middle East, the United States military carrying out a second night of airstrikes against Iran.
And Tehran staging its own wave of attacks, targeting U.S. allies across the Gulf region.
And our bases in that
so
region.
So what you're saying is markets will stay stable until the very suddenly they are not? Basically, what is the pattern that we've seen with oil prices, with the markets, is that as long as oil and the markets are not going down, Donald Trump feels like he could do whatever he wants. And the markets believe that Donald Trump cares about them. So whenever they actually start to get concerned, he'll change the policy. And as you saw, since the war started, every time there was like, how many false starts about a ceasefire were there? This was the longest one, right? Oh, fuck, there's not going to be a ceasefire. Prices start to spike. Oh, ceasefire. We're going to do it. We're about to sign a ceasefire. Oh, ceasefire is just around the corner. Oh, no ceasefire. Oh, we're signing a ceasefire. Oh, God. Oh, it looks like there is no ceasefire. Oh, we're signing a ceasefire. Oh, there's no ceasefire. Oh, no. Memorandum of understanding for real this time, right? And in the last 5 days, war restarted. Attacks started happening. Prices rose again. And then what happened 6 hours ago? Trump says Iran called to make deal after U.S. strikes. Adds it's unclear if war is back on. Oh, okay. Well, I guess the war's not back on. Stocks rose on Thursday, supported by a jump in semiconductors and a fall in oil prices as equity markets tried to recover despite renewed U.S.-Iran tensions. For the second day in a row, the U.S. launched fresh strikes on Iran, U.S. Central Command said. However, crude futures were lower after President Donald Trump said Iran called to make a deal. And I don't know about you guys, but Donald Trump, he never lies.
Alexandria Hoff joins us now from the White House. Alexandria.
Well, good morning to you. Yes, U.S. Central Command confirms a second consecutive wave of strikes targeting military.
Here's you explaining this exact pattern months ago. And you could see this kind of like whipsaw, like, oh, it starts rising, and then, oh, yeah, we're going to have a ceasefire any day now. And it rises. Oh, we're having a ceasefire any day. Okay. Oh, it doesn't look like we're having a ceasefire. Oh, wait, we are having a ceasefire. Oh, it looks like that was not true. Oh, it's rising again. So every time it dings off of $100 a barrel, there's rumors of a ceasefire. You can see it happening. How many times? 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Every time it's around $100 a barrel, suddenly there's rumors of a fucking ceasefire again. And if you look at the markets are now at an all-time high. I believe we are at an all-time high, chat. Except the Dow is almost at 50,000. The S&P 500.
Infrastructure in southern Iran, also coastal Iran. These strikes have been described as more aggressive than the initial wave that we saw earlier this week, sparked by attacks on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran has responded by targeting neighboring nations, including Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. Now, Iran taking up much of the talk in Turkey, where President Trump just was for the NATO summit. There he said the fragile ceasefire deal signed last month is over.
It's sort of crazy, to be honest. They're sort of great. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal. Badly.
Yeah, so President Trump's still hoping for that deal. He arrived back at Joyce Bate Andrews after 1 this morning, flying partway home on an old Air Force One, not the new recently revealed jet. The president brushed off this having to do with potential security concerns, but did acknowledge in Turkey the ever-present threat he sees.
The life of a president is very dangerous. It's 5.2%. You know what a race car driver is? 1/10 of 1%. It's a very dangerous profession. No, I'm number 1 on the kill list for Iran.
Now, the key figures on Iran's negotiation team lobbying threats, accusing the U.S. of breaking promises. Speaker of Parliament and really considered the top negotiator, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, threatening America with this. He wrote in part, "If you strike, you'll get hit. Don't flail around pointlessly or you'll sink even deeper. The Strait of Hormuz will only open with Iranian arrangements, not American threats." So when the president is scheduled today after his early arrival back at the White House, he will have his intelligence briefing later this afternoon.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. This just goes to show how determined they are to control the strait, because it's really about controlling the strait.
That's all they have.
And that's all they have. But they also are able to sell their oil at market prices. They're also in a process within 60 days of beginning to unfreeze their funds. But they are focused because their new nuclear weapon is that strait. That's going to be a source of revenue for them and a way to choke off any adversary next time that there's some type of conflict or turbulence with Iran. They'll say, okay, I'm going to shut it down again and see how you're going to get your natural gas and see how you're going to get your oil products. So they are determined to do this, even if it costs them their legitimate oil revenue, even if it costs them lifting up the sanctions. So we're going to have to, this is where it's heading. We're going to have to take back the strait. We're going to have to establish lines where the drones are able to shoot and hit a ship. We got to push them back to the point where those drones aren't able to hit, or we're going to have to be able to knock that down in order to get merchant commercial vessels to go through there and insurers to insure vessels to go through there.
Oh, my God, another one. This same fucking. How many times are they going to play this B-roll? How many videos are they going to play this exact B-roll?
Agree with you, Brian, that we got to take it over, and we have to send the message that they can't no longer use this as a tool for political pressure. Not real pressure, but just political pressure. It's not a military pressure.
Please explain military strategy. The United States and Israel are attacking Iran in order to try to pressure them to no longer support Hezbollah so that Israel can seize large parts of the territory of Lebanon and annex it for Israeli settlers, because it is a supremacist state that is looking for a living space. So the United States of America and our politicians are subordinate to Israeli interest because they get bribed billions of dollars, and it's not their money they're spending. It's not their lives that they're spending, so they don't give a shit. They get enriched, They get power. In exchange, they help Israel commit war crimes, genocide, and illegal warfare.
Engage politically against the president domestically, but the international community, they had to step in because they actually need the strait. They actually need the oil that goes back. We don't, even though it's a global market. So they have to back us up publicly and militarily if we decide to do that.
And the Middle East allies, I think, have demonstrated time and time again, and certainly notwithstanding yesterday when NATO claimed to step up a little bit, with the exception of Spain, that's where our allyships lie. And that's also where the toxicity and the when a tumor metastasizes, where they've been affected. So prior presidents have not had the deals and the allyship with the Middle East Gulf region neighbors that we have, and this is demonstrated in the continued pressure economically and militarily against Iran, because certainly right now the triage is nothing is more important than, to your point, the freedom and navigable aspect of the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran insists on pirating.
They want the Gulf states who are a little freaked out, Saudi Arabia and Qatar specifically, to say, listen, let us just control the strait and we'll stop rocketing you. So they hit Bahrain and Qatar again.
Like the mob.
So, so we'll do that. So we have to show that we got their back, and we have to show aggression to finish the job, because we don't want to leave a wounded animal in the wounded lethal animal in the middle of that area. So we had backed off and said, here's a ceasefire. The MOU was not good, but it was to get us to talks and settle the price of oil down. The one thing we need is a different negotiating team. If we go to negotiations, and that's a big if, this team can't do it. The vice president leading the way with Steve Witkoff and others, they should focus on Ukraine. Have a different team go in there, and we should demand different people. The foreign minister's a waste of time, and the speaker's a waste of time. The IRGC's calling the shots, so why are we pretending to talk to the other guys? Talk to the people that make the decisions, even knowing ahead of time that they're not to be trusted. Maybe our answer is, once and for all, take the strait, hold the strait, and then we show the rest of the world that we can control the oil prices because we're controlling the strait. And maybe that gets us where we want to go, and we continue to strangle the regime and forget about giving them unfrozen funds. And we need these Gulf states to go into the Iranian bank accounts and control all of them, because they put all their money, they convert it to dollars, and they stick it in Bahrain, they stick it in Qatar, they stick it in UAE, they stick it in Saudi Arabia. Now, the Treasury Secretary evidently yesterday has convinced them to hold on to their money. So this is the type of pressure that's the only thing they understand.
Yeah, they can't do deals behind their backs and under the table as well. Like I said, it's like paying the mob off for their own security. I will say this, though.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now. Fox.
Palm Beach Airport renamed to President Donald J. Trump International Airport. They thought this deserved a... God, this is such a propaganda sycophantic network. What the fuck is this? The worst part of the fascist government and media is the fucking gaslighting. Israel is a violent state, and they all pretend it's not. I mean, it's just embarrassing, man. This is just embarrassing, dude. God. All right, I just saw one of the most based videos, which is Joy-Ann Reid talking about Maine. Now that Platner's gone, this is exactly the type of energy you should have.
Progressives picked Platner, so you need to replace him with somebody who is ideologically the same, because that is what was decided. The people of Maine, the Democratic voters of Maine said, we want a progressive. They did not say they want an APAC moderate. So the Democratic Party in Maine ought to pick someone who is ideologically the same or ideologically similar as Platner. If you don't, and the DNC shoves an APAC candidate down your throat, you have my permission to not vote for them, because the Democratic Party needs to learn that it is not vote blue no matter who. It matters who. They sometimes need to lose in order to learn. Sometimes when you lose, you learn. And I'm just telling you right now, if they put a little APAC, send Israel all the bombs, give Saudi Arabia all the money, let the UAE run over us and give Trump another plane. If they put another APAC sellout moderate in place of Graham Platner, and they do not put somebody in who is his same ideology, you have my permission to stay your ass home.
I saw that.
Then they will learn when Susan Collins gets 6 more years. At this point, we have to teach Democrats. We need to instruct them and teach them how to treat us. It's like being in a relationship. You got to teach people how to treat your
And
ass.
you know, the good thing about it is 6 more years if she gets in, she might go the way of Mitch McConnell.
She'll be glitching.
Oh my, holy shit, the Joy Reid show. I need to start watching this more.
Freezing.
Exactly.
Glitching and freezing because they don't never want to retire. Why that old lady still? She needs to retire too. But you know,
Glitching and freezing. Now this is the type of content that I am here for. Joy Reid has become unleashed.
You know what? Leave her in there. If they
Isn't she older than Mitch McConnell?
Probably. I mean, at this point, they're all 100 years old. But the reality is we're going to focus on the races where the people get to choose the ideology of what they want. People didn't pick Graham Platner because of his stupid tattoos.
Exactly. Like this is the obvious point, by the way. Graham Platner won because people are desperate for progressive politics that's anti-Israel and anti-war. And while there is a lot of good reasons to think that he was not a reliable person, that's what people were voting for, because their alternative was pro-war, pro-Israel, corporate ghoul, and they rejected that. Now, the fight agency and Graham Platner, they fucking abused our trust by not vetting the candidate and not finding someone who is a good vessel for that politics. Fight agency, is it pro-Israel? I think fight agency is willing to work with J Streeters and shit like that. It's very much a Bernie Sanders org, right? And it's not really, again, it's not an organization. It's a media consulting company. They work with a lot of left wingers, but fundamentally they're not like a member organization. They're people that are making money from campaigns by making good media for those campaigns. And sometimes they work for people that have bad policies. I think people need to understand that the reason why fight agency, like, they're very good at making viral videos. That's my entire point, is that we need to stop rallying around people because they had a viral video. They need to also have DSA, right? And like Zohra Mamdani is part of that greater universe, but Zohra Mamdani is not fight agency. Zohra Mamdani is DSA. Hiring people to make you good videos that go viral is different. And right now, the left is not mature in America. That's the crisis.
They picked him because of his ideology.
She's so fucking based. Holy shit.
Progressives picked.
Holy shit. And AOC said this the other day, and we remarked upon it, but we didn't talk about it more, which is being skilled at social media is just one aspect of being a good candidate these days. But on the left, it's oftentimes what happens, and let's be brutally fucking honest, right? Why were people talking about Graham Platner so much? Because he was going viral. Part of the reasons he was going viral is because of the good policies and the communication and the viral videos, right? The other part was that he had controversy. So people were debating back and forth over the controversies, which drove him up in the algorithm. And then the political grifters who call themselves content creators and never organize anything, ask them the last time they donated money, raised money for a candidate, or really did any fucking work for anyone but themselves. They saw it was going viral, so they started talking about it. And that's on both sides of the Platner thing, too. It's the pro-Platner people and it's the anti-Platner people. Both sides of that were people looking at the fact that he was a viral topic, and they picked a side and engaged in the discourse. That's what happened. When I brought on Claire Valdez onto my stream, was she viral? Was Claire Valdez viral when she came on my stream? Was Francesca Hong viral when they came on my stream? Was Ryan Clancy viral when he came on my stream? Was Hartzell viral when he came on my stream? None of these people were fucking viral. I was using my platform to help them. And that resulted in what? You know, was Oliver Larkin viral when I brought him on my stream? The answer is no. Were the guys running for Jersey City Council viral when they came on my stream? The point is that I am trying to use what I've got to help the movement, and every single one of those people are DSA candidates. The only person that I brought on my stream who was already viral was Kat Abu-Ghazaleh. Now notice, the people that are criticizing me about Platner, they have an opinion on Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, and they have an opinion on Graham Platner, but they didn't have a fucking opinion about any of the people I just named before they went on Hassan's stream and my stream, before they went viral, because they don't do any fucking work. Now, I play the game. I talk about politics. You know, I'm not saying here that I don't look at people's virality and don't have a conversation about them based on it being relevant. Of course I do. But what I'm trying to say to you is this isn't about me being a better person. Again, this is not about me. You fucking narcissistic Stan mentality idiots. It is about the fact that the movement needs serious communicators that are in this for more than themselves. And you can see who those people are by their works. What are they doing? And if the answer is they have nothing, well, then that says everything you need to know. Did you see Ryan Grimm and Sauger doing borderline rape apologia? Dropsite's social media manager is also going on a rape denialism tear on Twitter right now. Okay, here's how I would say this. Everyone needs to calm the fuck down. You're engaged in social media hyperbolic over exaggeration, and your brain is becoming dysregulated because of social media. Your brain is becoming dysregulated from social media because it's incentivized to be dysregulated because that gets you more attention. I need everybody to be more normal. Ryan Grimm reported a story. I did not like it, and I commented. And I said, this is not even relevant, and all the effect of this does is open up the victim for attacks. However, it wasn't rape apologia. You could exist on a spectrum of this was a problematic thing that I think is unhelpful, and by doing it, you are reinforcing rape culture unintentionally. That is a good faith criticism. I just don't like the way that people do this type of shit anymore. Solidarity. Ryan Grimm is not a rape apologist, evil guy. He did a bad story. He was trying to report. Well, they didn't report the full text message. Here's the full context. That is bad. But let's calm the fuck down, okay? Like, Jesus Christ. I think they should withdraw it. I think they should delete it. I think it will result in negative consequences. But the way that everybody approaches this shit with maximum hyperbole, burning every bridge, destroying every other person. For what? What is your goal with that? Are you trying to improve Dropsite News' reporting to make sure that they are less problematic? Are you trying to get attention? Like, what's the goal? Yesterday, our post on Politico's reporting on the sexual allegations against Graham Platner was intended to summarize reporting Ryan Grimm discussed on Breaking Points regarding details. Politico omitted from the story. The language of our post left the impression that text messages by Platner's accusers, Jenny Racicot, are relevant to whether or she was raped or in any way justify the alleged assault she described. This was not the intention. It is not the position of Dropsite or Ryan. We genuinely value the feedback and criticism we have received from many readers, and we have deleted the post. By the way, chat, I told them to delete that, and I'm glad they took the feedback. And I think the organization is a good organization. Here's what I replied. I was the top reply. I said, I like you guys a lot, but this fucking sucks. Consent can be withdrawn, and it is very clear in the context that she didn't want Platner to come over, and the attack was non-consensual. All this post does is give license to attacks on the victim's character. Delete this. And like, the reason why, like, here's the thing. You are allowed to, like, everyone is such on a hair trigger. They're on a hair trigger to try to throw everything in the fucking dumpster, right? Like, they're on a hair trigger for this kind of like antisocial behavior. It's not the way you would react with someone in real life. And it's fucking weird. Dropsite News is one of the best sources we have for real reporting on things like Palestine, on pushing back against corporate media. Can we calm the fuck down and be normal? And and by the way, I didn't apologize or say that this post was okay. I went right after them, and they responded exactly the way they should. Can we be normal? Is that possible? Ryan Grimm does this often. You gotta get out of the fucking Tumblr, wherever you're getting this idea. You need to leave. They're making you into an idiot, like legitimately making you into an idiot. I don't know if they're like a teenager or have the maturity of a teenager, but like you gotta get a grip. You gotta get a grip. Like you really do. I don't know what it is, but there's this like Tumblr energy that people are trying to bring back where it's like, if I can find one thing that I can say is problematic, you are canceled and you're a piece of shit for life and you're a racist, misogynist. Nobody should listen to you and you should go away. They should listen to me and me alone. And it's like, what the fuck is going on with you guys? They do real fucking reporting in DC. They're walking around DC and they are doing gumshoe reporting. They are talking to Hamas and and the PFLP and the resistance forces in Gaza. They're talking to the leadership of the fucking Iranian government and giving reporting that goes around. That's Pulitzer Prize winning, real hardcore, real reporting journalism. Are you okay? Like me throwing Tumblr under the bus when the ultras are on X? I mean, whatever. I'm just saying, like, what the fuck is going on with people's brains lately? Jeremy Scahill is real shit, not focused on Platner. Yes, Jeremy Scahill does foreign policy reporting, and Ryan Grimm does domestic, political, and congressional reporting. They have different areas of expertise. The reason they're together is because it's important for the progressive movement to have reporters that do both. Woke 2 is feeling very woke 1. No, this isn't woke 2. This is woke 1 trying to come back. These are people that, again, they don't do anything themselves. They think of themselves as the critic. They're going to sit back and be the critic, and they're going to, honestly, it's like everybody needs to bring them things. Like I will taste. There's a little bit too much salt. Throw away this reporting. I am very smart. Jesus Christ. I think there is an antisocial behavior energy. And again, I'm kind of antisocial. Like if I'm telling you this, you're way out of fucking line. I am not somebody who's like never burn. I'm not Hassan, okay? I don't give people benefit of the doubt to the nth degree, okay? You're talking to me, okay? Like you are being like the antisocial energy that are coming out of these kind of like ultras is fucking insane. Like if I'm saying to you like, hey, maybe this is going a little bit too far, you should like bring it in.
Could have declared, people would have actually had a chance to vote. And so I think that the two primary villains here, New York Times for the way they handled this, and then CNN and Politico, all three of those, because they did not present.
And Graham for being a dog.
Well, oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
it's all liberal consumption as identity. LOL. No one wants to work in the economy because it sucks. Everyone wants a media career because who wouldn't? Yeah, that's why I'm trying to stop the media careers of people that are really stupid and exist in my space to just cause drama and pollute it with bullshit. Right? Like you understand that, right? Like I'm trying to make you guys smart consumers so that you won't go and consume horrible, destructive, worthless, liberal pablum that gets us nowhere, right? Like you understand that I want you guys, I want my community to be a community of savvy political operators who we're going to make mistakes. I'm not infallible. You know, like, and when I make a mistake, I come right to you guys and say, hey, I misjudged Graham Platner because of the necessity for anti-Zionist politics made us desperate and lean in. And the fact that he was, came from the majority report community, which is where I came from, made me give him way more benefit of the doubt than I wanted to. The fact that he was a fan of Michael Brooks, who was a friend of mine who died young, all that made me give him more of the benefit of the doubt that I should have. The red flags were there. The critiques were there. We should have hanged back a little bit more than we did and let, I made that was wrong. And why was I wrong? Because every time I support a sloppulist, and I hate those people. In 2020, I was trashing Elizabeth Warren while Majority Report was saying she's progressive. While all these other people were saying she's a progressive candidate too. I was saying, no, that sloppulist bullshit is crap. We need a socialist. So whenever I go against my instincts, which is supporting these kind of like soft progressives, we get burned. I got banned from Political Punk's Discord by Tommy himself for saying centrists are the problem. Who the fuck is Political Punk? I don't know what that is. And of course, Tetris, thank you for saying this. It happens. People are failing to make. First of all, the only reason you could think I don't make apologies is if you don't watch me. Like, maybe I say I'm right because I'm right 99% of the 95% of the time, right? Most of the time, I'm pretty right, okay? But when I'm wrong, I immediately say I'm wrong and why. So we can adjust our thinking. And when you talk about politics 5 hours a day for 7 years, you're going to get some things wrong. It is what it is. Unless you're not doing anything real, or you're never saying anything of value. Political Punk is a shit lib, not punk at all. Can you imagine saying you're punk and being like, I love Chuck Schumer? I'm Political Punk. I love Chuck Schumer. Anyway, notice that it's like my problem with Bad Empanato or my problem with some of the ultras isn't that they were not right about, listen, Graham Platner, there was a lot of red flags and we ignored them because we trusted in the fight agency to having vetted him and that when they said there were no more scandals, that there were no more scandals. We trusted that. When I say we, I mean me, Hassan, Majority Report, Kyle Kalinske, that kind of milieu of people that were saying, hey, we critically support him because he's good on Palestine, and it'll be a rebuke to Zionism in DC. I was very straightforward about that. I didn't say it's good that he's a veteran. I just said a veteran status doesn't matter, and that we shouldn't throw people out just because they were a veteran, which, by the way, FD Signifier agrees with me, and BRG agrees. Like, everyone agrees on that. The real problem with Grant Platner was he was also a Blackwater mercenary. Like, that's a little bit different than serving your country. And that is a red flag we should never have ignored. The tattoo not being covered up, when I first saw that, I was out. But then I believed this, but it seems like the people of Maine were behind him. He covered it up. We allowed ourselves to ignore it. There's just too many red flags. Too many red flags. It is what it is. So a combination of desperation for anti-Zionist politics to succeed, the fact that the people of Maine were unaffected by these scandals, which seemed to be in the past, and a belief that the agencies and campaign workers would actually make sure that there weren't further scandals. He wasn't just a veteran, he was a machine gunner. You asked leftists if he killed anyone. What could you think a machine gunner does? I'm not even going to get into, I'm not going to get into this because it's going off of a tangent, but like, bro, you understand that what you're doing is using your imagination. You're using your imagination. You're not actually saying, here's a report of when he killed this innocent civilian. You know, like, it's okay to say that. But again, that's just not. Also, like, again, I don't know how many times I have to say this. It's illegal to discriminate against a person for being a veteran. It's illegal. I don't know why I mean, maybe people are just not getting, the reason why you're not getting banned for it is because you don't have enough clout for anyone to notice who would actually use it against you. You know how, you noticed how my ass shaking emote got banned and everyone else's ass shaking emote is not banned? Because no one gave a shit enough to report it. And I'm not saying that I have a lot of clout. I'm not, by the way, I don't want you to think that I think I'm some big shot. I'm not. I think our audience is punches above our weight. I think our audience is the most engaged and politically aware and active community on the internet, pound for pound. There is not one other community on the internet of my size that is able to show up, raise money, and do real work. I'll put us against anyone else. People 10 times our size. If a black guy had the same baggage as Platner, you damn well no one would have backed him. I mean, you're talking to the wrong motherfucker. You're talking to the wrong motherfucker about that. I am the Keith Ellison, Linda Sarsour, Chris Rabb, hacker. Like, I'm a Summer Lee enjoyer. I'm like, you're talking to the wrong motherfucker. Okay, I defend Ilhan Omar's tweets. Like, what are you saying? I go to war for black leftists, and I always have. So, you know, pointing this out is you're saying it to the wrong person, because it's like, what the fuck are you saying? Also, again, I'm not even defending Grant Platner. I'm not defending him. I don't think he is defensible. I think the people that were skeptical of him are right. But to me, skepticism is not enough. Skepticism lets us all off the hook. Here's a question for me, you chat, and this is what's been bothering me. Why are so many people comfortable with the idea that Maine, where 150,000 white people showed up to vote against Israel, would have had no one to vote for? Why is that okay with you guys? I mean, obviously the alternative is no Grant Platner, Janet Mills, unchallenged, Janet Mills, Zionist, centrist, elected. How come there is nobody from our movement to run in an entire fucking state that was desperate for our politics? Why is that okay to you? I mean, the alternative is throw Grant Platner into the wolves. Obviously, I agree with you. But the real alternative was no one. Why are we missing opportunities that are that good? Now, hopefully, this is probably going to end up working out the best. Grant Platner drops out. We get somebody like Troy Jackson. Troy Jackson goes in. He's DSA endorsed. He's just as left-wing as Platner. He has no fucking scandals. He's not a Blackwater mercenary vet. And he ends up winning in a landslide. That ends up happening, then all of this is great because Janet Mills was the old alternative. So we'll have like checkmated through Janet Mills and got someone good. Maybe that'll happen. I hope so. Platner not only has the look, but his policies isn't as extreme for Mainers. Not what? Troy Jackson doesn't have anything on record regarding Israel. Let me find. I hope. Okay, maybe I'm getting overly excited and he sucks more than I thought. But We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I mean, he got endorsed by Maine DSA, so I'm surprised they didn't ask him about that. He's spoken out against the genocide. Okay, well, there you go. So the chatter was wrong. The chatter was wrong. Okay. And like ultimately, and you know, what I've always said and what I want you to understand is I have a different, Hassan and I look at politics different than every other person that you're watching that talks about politics. We want power for our movement. Power. We're not just commentating about politics because it's the only way we ever got any views and we're making money. Okay. We want power for our movement in the real world. And we feel a personal responsibility to get that. And sometimes that has involved compromises that we don't like and we regret. But it's because we're actually trying to do something and we're not just sitting back like we are reading a history seminar or we're, you know what I mean? How could someone make $500,000 a year and not have anything to do with real politics from talking about politics, right? That's crazy to me, right? How the fuck is that real? If I made $500,000 a year from politics or more, I would be maxing out to like 10 different people. How the fuck how can you just sit back and not be involved in shit? Maine Democratic nominee Graham Platner amended Israel in more than half of his fundraising emails. I mean, and this is why like he had the energy because he was the most anti-Israel candidate. Although Abdul is an email spammer, Jesus Christ. I think one of the problems is like perfectionism is a sign of ADHD. It's actually a flaw, a serious flaw. It is cope for being. It's like a way of putting a monocle and a top hat on top of your procrastination. Oh, I'm not a procrastinating, lazy, inert piece of shit. I'm actually waiting for the perfect candidate. I'm actually not completely a grifter off politics who does nothing and just makes money and then goes and leads a hedonistic lifestyle. I'm just waiting for a candidate good enough for me to care about. Is it AOC? No. Is it Bernie? No. Is it Zoran Mamdani? No. Is it Claire Valdez? No. Is it Oliver Larkin? No. Is it Cori Bush? No. Is it Summer Lee? No. Is it Chris Rabb? No. And notice, by the way, when Kyle Kalitsky and Crystal Ball were going after Chris Rabb for not supporting Graham Platner, who did I back? Who did I back? I backed Chris Rabb. I said Chris Rabb is right. People say that people have implied that I don't understand the way that racism affects society. And then the answer is I'm a white guy. Racism to me is not something that I experience it is a privilege that I experience. But when the rubber meets the road, you will see me standing shoulder to shoulder with the people that are anti-racist. Chris Rabb was attacked by Crystal, or not even attacked, but criticized by Crystal and Kyle and these people for not full-throatedly endorsing Graham Platner. I said, Chris Rabb is right. I'm going to show you the video. I mean, I posted it. Obviously, people don't really care about the content of the video. They're just going to they don't really care about the content of the video. I was talking about that. I defended Chris Rabb and said there's nothing Chris Rabb said that was wrong at all.
I wonder what you make of the allegations and also what has been seen as extreme scrutiny into his life that doesn't seem to be matched with a level of scrutiny into others.
This is challenging for me because I've felt that folks who have been identified as hard-scrabbled, populist, left of center,
Why are you saying Chris Rabb is white? I said Chris Rabb is black. What are you talking about?
Guys get far more leeway than folks like me, black progressives. And that's a double standard that is largely based on race. And I think that's a conversation we need to have.
I think he's totally right, by the way. I don't have a problem with what he's saying at all. I do think white guys are given more of leeway. But I don't think the solution is let's prevent left-wing white guys from getting leeway. It is to give black leftists leeway. It's to stand with them and give them leeway too. It's not to like go, oh, let's attack white leftist guys for getting leeway and therefore empower the fascists. Donald Trump is a fucking rapist. Can you imagine if Graham Platner was found liable for sexual assault in a courtroom? He wouldn't have been viable either. So there's clearly by the way, you can see, by the way, notice how I say he's not viable if he's found liable for sexual assault, and then immediately when he was found viable, he gets thrown out of office. Foreshadowing. It's almost like I'm exactly correct. Now, by the way, like, again, I'm not trying to say I told you so or anything. I'm saying that the idea that I ever went after any of our black leaders who are expressing their concern about Graham Platner or anyone is fucking bullshit. I took their side every time, of course. I have been a huge supporter of all of these people from the get-go because I understand how important their leadership is in building a working class, cross-racial, socialist movement that's get beyond the mistakes of Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020. We need black leaders. We need women of color and men of color at the front of our movement so that we could build those coalitions. Like, that has always been my take. And I'm sorry if I'm getting fired up here, but it's just like people try to categorize me as a thing that I am not on a regular basis because they never engage with me. And they use their made-up caricature as what I support, as a justification for, as I said, a moral licensing for shitting on my name, even though they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Double standard between left-wingers and right-wingers. And yes, white leftists get more of a leeway than black leftists, but they get a hell of a lot less leeway than Republican fascists. I think the solution is, I'm going to defend Cori Bush. I'm going to defend Summer Lee. I'm going to defend Jamal Bowman. I'm going to defend Chris Rabb. I'm going to defend Keith Ellison. I was one of the first guys to defend Keith Ellison. I was one of the first people to defend Linda Sarsour. So I'm going to be defending all the people of color, socialists and leftists, with the same exact energy as I defend Graham Platner. I promise you. I swear you that to be the fact. I totally understand what he's saying. He's right. There's really nothing to disagree here. He's right that black people are treated they're judged at like an unbelievable standard, and it's bullshit.
I think there's a clear double standard that the left has to talk about as it relates to our racial politics and what is acceptable.
Again, this is totally fair. This is totally fair. You're allowed to say, hey, we learned our lesson with Fetterman. Got it, Graham Platner, show us. That's okay. He's not saying fuck Graham Platner. This is actually completely fine. I can't believe anybody was overreacting to this. Ultimately, though, I think, and I even went on to explain it further. You know, the editors cut out more of the stuff I said, which was even more kind of, in my opinion, important, where I said Chris Rabb is a leader in our movement, and if he feels bad vibes from Graham Platner, I'm paraphrasing, he has a responsibility to represent the people of Philadelphia. If he doesn't vibe with Graham Platner, if he doesn't trust him, if he doesn't know him, he has an obligation to go with his gut and protect our movement. I said that. You know what I mean? And I had absolutely no problem with that. That the purpose of politics is to achieve your political outcome. Graham, can you please show the receipts for the lie that you told a streamer accepted and told 5K people? Okay, let me look this up. Troy Jackson, Israel. I'm stopping now. Troy Jackson is the only gubernatorial candidate committed to rejecting corporate and dark money in Maine's primary. It's known that Nirav Shah is supported by Super PAC 314 Action, which moved $1.7 million from AIPAC to pro-Israel congressional candidate to defeat a candidate speaking out against Israel's actions in Gaza. Okay. So Shah is an AIPAC stooge. Has he never said anything? Okay. The Jewish Telegraph Agency says, oh, the spam. He said little publicly related to Israel, but in his run for governor, Jackson had the backing of left-wing, strongly pro-Palestinian politicians, including Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna, as well as Maine's Democratic Socialists of America chapter. In 2024, at the Maine State Democratic Convention, Jackson, who served as convention chairman, reportedly attempted to quiet down a small group of protesters who called for a ceasefire in Gaza and called Rep. Jared Golden a war criminal during a video celebrating the Jewish congressman. I believe in the ability of the people to demonstrate and protest, Jackson said amid the outburst. There is a time for that. Okay, so I believe if he said anything about Israel that the Jewish Telegraph Agency would be telling everybody. So it seems like that chatter was wrong unless you have evidence. Editor Mentum said he prefers Shah. I'm sorry, chat. I'm trying not to be ableist. Has he ever gotten anything right? Like, has he legitimately ever gotten anything right? Has he ever had a good take? How is he wrong every time? He got famous by saying 2022 would be a red wave based on polling. He just, okay, and then the Democrats lost the fucking House anyway. Who gives a shit? Troy was a former Republican and voted against gay marriage in 2009. I mean, yeah, the guy has changed politically. I mean, 2009 is a long time ago. But I want to see something more strong against Israel. We need to inverse Editor Mentum. Editor Mentum is there to tell you how great John Ossoff is and how bad AOC is. Actual moron. Leaked messages between Asmongold and Emmy Roos show him bragging about using the N-word with a hard R for his passwords in addition to saying it all the times to his friends. I have super bad stuff online and no one cares. you guys think he actually changes his passwords? Do you guys think he has two-factor authentication on and he changes his passwords? And and it's gonna be to give more support for Chris. Chris is not just me. He's not me. He's not you. He has a responsibility to the movement of Philadelphia socialism. He cannot just throw shit out there willy-nilly. He has to defend the trust that has been placed in him. Same thing with AOC. They are not people that are just freewheeling on social media with their opinion. They have a responsibility as a leader to not harm people, right? They're not in Maine, okay? They are in Philadelphia, and he needs to make sure that he doesn't give aid and comfort to the enemy by speaking out of turn. And I think everything he said so far has been totally fair. Now, that being said, I think the timing isn't that great. Like, it is what it is. I think if you had been asked this like 3 months ago, I would have been totally on it. But the reality is if you haven't seen what, like, he's really answering a hypothetical, like, what would you want a flawed candidate to go through in order for you to feel confident? And then he's answering that question. He's not judging whether Graham Platner has or has not done those things. He's just talking about the concept of, like, how do we balance all these things? And he's giving a totally fair answer. I don't really even have a problem with it, other than Graham Platner is running, you know? And it is also June. I think it's a good and intelligent political maneuver to go to not rush to silence everything. Like, it's also a good political maneuver for us not to be seen as like shushing all the women, right? It's a good political maneuver to be like, all right, let's listen and let this stuff air out, right? Because if Graham Platner is having like stuff still coming out, it's not intelligent for all of our movement leaders to immediately rush in, okay? Like, it's good to give a little bit of space for it to air out, to have these conversations. He's not condemning Graham Platner. He's not calling him a piece of shit. I haven't seen anything. He's had a very mature conversation. It's just people don't want these kind of conversations anymore. It's not the energy of the time. Right now, people are in bloody warfare. You know, like we are in trench warfare against fascism. And Graham Platner is a huge weapon. And when he's not, he goes. And I feel like, you know, now that we know more, he was wise. He was very wise. And as I said, by the way, if I was a DSA, if I had won a primary in Bumblefuck, Pennsylvania as a rep, and I was representing DSA and I was going into Congress, I would have done the exact goddamn same thing. I would have reacted the exact same way he did. He reacted like a leader. He reacted maturely, and he ended up being right to hold back from Graham Platner. Why I see the argument for somebody like Shaw right now. Yesterday, I would have told you that Jackson was a slam dunk choice, but of course this fucking psycho is ruining that too. Editor Mentum is legitimately dumb. He's legitimately dumb. Artsel Gray on MR gave you a positive call out for helping build the movement. Nice. God, he's so bad at this. He might not even be that opportunistic. God, he loves Zionist candidates. Editor Mentum and Zionism. He's always saying how great some Zionist candidate is. Guys, have you heard of Gretchen Whitmer? Guys, have you heard of Andy Bashir? Guys, have you heard of John Ossoff? Guys, have you heard of Shah? Every single time. It's a fucking Zio. It's almost like he likes Zionists and he wants Zionists to win, because every single fucking time it's a Zionist. Must be getting that advice from his parents. Will this change your strategy? At the end of the day, you guys believe in your strategy and will consider this incident as nothing but accident. How long have you been watching the stream this morning? How long have you been watching the stream? Seems like you've been watching the stream for 30 minutes. Is that about right? Benz. You added me and I'm responding. Where'd you go? I'm still using Ultra. Say tanky like libs do, because you're not tankies. You don't support China and you don't support like anti-imperialist movements. You're definitely not tankies. I use by the way, tanky is not even really a real thing, whereas Ultra is. Veterans who didn't real redemption shouldn't be near power. Is that too much? Yeah, no, I mean, I agree completely. Editor is wrong daily. Why do people read him? Because they bought into his bullshit because it was pushed by people that is way to his left. I mean, he's really not even a progressive. Okay. How long have you been listening to the stream? No, for real. Will you guys update your strategy? Why aren't you answering my question? Okay, I'll answer your question. I already told you how we're updating our strategy. In fact, that was one of the very first thing. And I understand that English isn't your first language, so I'm sorry for bullying you. But I've always said the main problem is with sloppulous progressives. I've been saying that for days now, which is every time I, give critical support to some sort of these like progressive candidates who are not socialists, that's where we make mistakes. Whether that's Fetterman, whether that's Platner, whether that's, young candidates who carpetbag across the country. When people don't come from the movement, that leads to lack of vetting, and that leads to bad outcomes like this. The problem that I have to ask you is, why do you think it's okay that a state where an anti-Zionist would get 75, 80% of the support in the polls, even though he's full of red flags, why do you think it would be a good thing for the result to have been Janet Mills be nominated? Why isn't Janet Mills being nominated a problem for you? Why doesn't that cause you to update your strategy? What strategy? Do you have one? Does this make Abdul a potential problem? The problem is that people are unable to handle nuance. So if I criticize Abdul, people will see that as me being hypercritical, and they will see that as me saying something negative, and they will see that as Mike is hurting Abdul. So here's what I'll say. I am as big of an Abdul El-Sayed supporter as you could possibly be. I think he's great. However, some of his policies I'm probably going to end up disagreeing with because he's not coming from DSA cadre. He's coming from the movement from the side of Bernie Sanders and being in policy and being associated with like the general progressive Bernie-crat left. But he's not a socialist coming from DSA. So as far as like sloppulism goes, he's the best of the best. He's a near perfect sloppulist. That being said, during the debate, he said, freeze property taxes for seniors, which is a terrible policy that I absolutely hate. And it's exactly why California sucks on housing, and it's a really bad policy. And rich property owners should not have their tax frozen. I don't care what property it is. There's no way that you should be like, old retired people with a lot of wealth should pay lower taxes than young people starting families or young people coming out of college. That's fucking stupid. I don't believe a DSA candidate would ever have a policy that bad, but maybe they would. I mean, there's never say never. He has the same. I think Abdul is really just, what if Jank didn't suck? What if Jank actually kept updating his politics to stay relevant? You know what I mean? Instead of spiraling from jealousy from other people superseding him because his politics didn't update. What if he was like slightly better? What do I think about the candidate Hassan had on yesterday? I'm not really a progressive victory candidate fan. Foreign policy is too important to me. And as I said before, I'd rather help DSA candidates. So if somebody's not a DSA candidate and they have bad foreign policy, I'm not really interested. I mean, I hope he wins, right? But like going forward, I'm not going to be supporting those guys anymore. So if Hassan wants to support those kind of people, that's totally fine. Like I'm not going to, beating Debbie Wasserman Schultz would be awesome. But if somebody is like, we've got to fight China over Taiwan and more billions to Ukraine. No peace and NATO rules. I'm not behind that. I'm gonna go ahead and say no thanks. All right, we have some of the replacements for Platner. I wanted to
We
check
are
this
suspending
out.
campaign operations. This is incredibly difficult because
Elijah is forward DSA and is working on rejoining and seeking. Let me just say, I understand what you guys are saying. I understand what you guys are trying to do. I'm going to tell you the same thing I said before. Don't pursue this. Don't pursue this point. Don't try to like go, oh, his positions aren't that bad. Don't do that. I know more than you. And me being silent is actually me doing as much as I can. Because the option isn't me helping. The option is me going after them. So this is the best outcome they can get from me, is me saying nothing. You know what I mean? Like, me not commenting about this race and pretending it doesn't exist is as good as it's going to get.
Decisions that come next must come from that.
Out front now, Troy Jackson is former Democratic president of Maine State Senate, who has now...
I think his foreign policy could be redirected. Good luck. Once it's redirected, then tell me about the race again.
Filed campaign paperwork just today to possibly replace Platner if he drops out. You have a lot of experience in politics in Maine, and you ran for governor. You came in third in the Democratic primary there. And you told a local reporter in Maine, and I quote you here, if Graham's stepping away, I'm very, very interested.
Why is the foreign policy so trash and deeply held? Because they think Americans don't care, so they run into something like, you know, progressive victory, which pushes them, you know, the Voshite, pro-NATO, Zio, you know, that kind of like, well, they're not Zionists, but they're like pro-NATO, pro-American imperialism everywhere except Gaza. They think they can give those positions away and then they're not going to be consequences. Well, I'm the consequence, which is I'm not going to support you.
Interested and think I'm the best person to replace him. But as I mentioned, Troy, there's no known process to get anyone on the ballot whose name isn't Graham Platner at this point, right? It's an unknown.
That was the same thing you endorsed her. Nah, she had to change her positions. And after experiencing the Kat Abou-Ghazaleh fandom, I don't really. I'm from now on, you know, obviously, the best those type of people are going to get from me is utter silence, like they don't even exist. DSA or ignore. And if I make an exception, I'll tell you why. But they have to be fucking perfect.
I mean, would you even have enough time to do this, to get it together, to pull off a win if you got in the next few days?
Interviews are not endorsements. I don't do interviews that way. I'm not trying to bring people out of my stream for some sort of interview. I'm bringing people on here for movement building. I don't give a shit about. I'm not trying to do some sort of. Oh, I'm gonna have any politician who wants to come on and talk to me can come talk to me. They're coming on for one of two reasons: movement building, or I'm there to destroy them. I'm not doing like, okay, please come on my stream, sir. I don't know if I agree with that, sir. It's either going to be a positive interview or viciously hostile. Those are the only interviews I give. I don't give, I'm a journalist, sir, and I'm neutral. Can you talk to my audience and trick rubes to support your terrible policies? No.
Well, I think it's definitely
tricking rubes to support Platner. And Platner is exactly why I'm not doing that anymore. Although his policies were better. The problem with Platner was not the policies. The problem with Platner is he's a disgusting lying piece of shit. And he's untrustworthy and he's a predator. And he's going to lose to Susan Collins. It wasn't because of the policies. It was his background. It was who he was as a person and the unviability of his campaign. It wasn't his policies, or at least his stated policies.
Challenge, you know, shorter timeline, but I think that, again...
it's so funny to get mad about Graham Platner and then want to support some, like, YouTube huckster candidates who went viral a couple times. You know what I mean? And be like, I can't believe nobody vetted Graham Platner. Anyway, here's the next non-vetted, non-movement candidate who went viral a couple times. You have to support them, even though they fundamentally disagree with your worldview.
You know, there's a movement here in Maine and across this country of people that are fed up with healthcare not being offered to everyday people.
You say DSA or bus. Is it DSA endorsement or DSA cadre members only from here, excluding whatever exceptions you have to fit like Summer and Abdul? Basically, what I'm saying is that I am going to be focusing on supporting DSA-supported candidates. However, but I may make exceptions for people that have a long track record within the movement, like Abdul, who I find extremely extraordinary trustworthy. And here's the other thing. I may waive that. I may make exceptions. I'm not bound by some rule book, but in general, I'm changing mentally, I'm looking at things differently. Instead of like eagerly supporting everybody who I think would be useful, I'm going to be focusing on people who are much more deeply rooted, because honestly, I don't have the capacity to support 100 people anyway. So if I'm going to be supporting, say, 15 candidates in the cycle or 20 candidates in the cycle, I want to make sure that they're good, as opposed to, you know, I'll still talk about viral candidates and all this other shit. I'm still going to play the game.
You know, with prescription drugs, workers' rights. I mean, and we're seeing that here in Maine. And I think that is going to carry whoever is a nominee to victory over Collins, because she doesn't offer any of that. And so that's what I think. I mean, short timeline, obviously money and all that is going to be a challenge, but I definitely think it's doable because the message, the movement is right, and that's what's important.
One state official who's already expressing her interest in replacing Platner, Secretary of State Janet Bellows. Secretary Bellows was a candidate for the Democratic nomination in the Maine governor's race, but lost last month's primary to former Maine House Speaker Hannah Pingree. To those who are suggesting that this process for replacing Platner, assuming Platner steps aside, would be undemocratic. Some have compared it to Vice President Harris replacing President Biden in 2024 as being undemocratic. What do you say to criticism that if Platner drops out, the new Democratic nominee is going to be someone voters did not actually choose?
So the Secretary of State, I can speak to the process. And Maine law is very clear that primary candidates can withdraw up to 5 p.m. on the second Tuesday in July. And then the party can choose a replacement candidate.
Why did Shaw get so much more time than Troy Jackson? The fuck?
To the fourth Monday, that's July 27th, by 5 p.m. The law is silent on how the parties choose their candidates. I know the Maine Democratic Party has pledged to be as open and transparent as possible. I think it's really important that as many Democratic voters have a voice in this process when Graham Platner withdraws. I think that's really important, that focus on participation and inclusion.
As someone who would like to be the Democratic Senate nominee, how do you think it should play out? What do you think that process should be?
So to be clear, I'm still seriously considering it, but I think it's really important that whoever the nominee is able to unite Mainers and beat Susan Collins with just over 100 days to go, because the stakes are so high. Control of the U.S. Senate is at stake, holding Donald Trump accountable and standing up and fighting for the working class over billionaires and massive corporations. Those ideals, that is incredibly important. And I think there's tremendous energy in Maine to beat Susan Collins and to win control of the U.S. Senate. And I think we can't lose sight of the fact that this was never about a person. It was a movement for change.
He was a Graham Platner supporter. That was at least until yesterday. Dr. Shah, welcome. I'm eager to get your take because I wonder, have you even spoken with Platner?
By the way, I just want you guys to understand, nobody in Maine, it's not going to be a name recognition problem in Maine, okay? You know, we'll have plenty of time. We'll have plenty of money. You know, the message will get out. There's plenty of time. Many places run entire campaigns at the national level in less than 100 days. People pretending like 100 days is a short amount of time. It's fucking not. Okay? Plenty of fucking time.
Or his campaign since the sexual assault allegations surfaced yesterday.
Well, good evening, Maura, and thank you for having me. And I have not spoken with Graham, nor have I spoken directly with his campaign. Like so many others, when I read, and my wife and I read, the horrifying and appalling allegation yesterday, we both simultaneously developed a pit in our stomach. And I went to Twitter and other social media platforms as quickly as I could and called for him to withdraw his name from consideration. What I'm looking to now is how we fill this void and ultimately defeat Senator Collins come November.
Now, obviously, the allegation extremely he does deny them, but Platner, at least in this campaign, has been no stranger. I mean, there's been questionable conduct toward women that's been out since before the primary. Lindsay Feifeld accused Platner of domestic abuse to the New York Times. Now, he has denied that as well. What was it about this latest allegation for you to withdraw your support as opposed to the prior controversy?
Absolutely, and that's the exact right question to focus on. There were a few things that are different here. Number one of them is the severity of alleged forcible rape. The other is the documentation that accompanied it. And of course, there's also this phenomenon of more at some point becomes the straw that breaks the proverbial. There were too many lines here that were crossed. And for me and for so many other Democrats, this was not a direction we want to go. That's because, Laura, the stakes are incredibly high. We have an obligation as in service of not just Mainers, but in service of the entire country to defeat Senator Collins this upcoming November. And it was clear that Mr. Platner would be unable to do so. That's the course that I'm evaluating.
There are so many Platner voters who are feeling incredibly let down. We remember after the last set of allegations concerning sexting and beyond, He talked about how essentially he was being targeted. They were weaponizing things against him. Supporters behind him spoke about their ferocious support for him. But if he steps down now, and that's an if because he is still in the race as we are talking right now, but if he steps down, and if, say, you jump in, you aren't just asking for their votes, you're asking for their trust. How do you prove to Platner supporters that you might be able to deliver on those promises that he has so readily made?
Oh, this guy is absolute. Like, the fact that Editor Mentum is like, yeah, this is the guy, is truly amazing. How is somebody this, how does he have this much motion? How does anyone listen to Editor Mentum? I need to know. I need to know. What has he done? Like, I have done more predictions that were more accurate in the last 3 months than he's done in his entire career. His was like, there won't be a red wave in 2022. Then he got the fucking presidential election completely wrong. Why does anyone talking to this guy? Why? Why? Like, literally, why? He's not cool. He's not funny. His voice is annoying. His predictions are bad. I don't get it. It's actually causing me, it like causes me existential crises. He's a Chapo guy, but why? He posted more memes than me. Damn, good point.
You know, that
your personal grudge against the guy. I know, but it's like, you know how much time I have to spend? Like, you know how often people come into my chat and say dumb shit from Editor Mentum, or God forbid I hear it on Hassan's stream? People were yelling at me for, in order, Zionist, daughter of a healthcare CEO, Gretchen Whitmer, who was recruited in the race to defeat who? Abdul El-Sayed. Then Zionist Nepo baby, son of the former governor, Andy Bashir. Then it was Zionist, centrist, John Ossoff. And again, spending most of the time trashing AOC's viability and nitpicking every move she makes. Like, what the fuck are you saying?
That will be a challenge facing whoever the next is. And I believe, as you note, that I'm in
Do you
a
want it
strong
to be you?
position to earn. My family and I, as well as
Jesus. Okay. Why won't rank Shaw? You hear Shaw consistently lead the primary race. We're talking to Shaw supporters at doors. A lot of Democrats have warm and fuzzy feelings about Shaw from when he was giving daily briefings during the COVID pandemic. He became kind of a rock star during liberal-leaning Mainers for his calm, soothing demeanor and dad jokes. People like him because he's smart with both a law degree and a medical degree, even though he doesn't have any clinical experience. He also seems like a very nice person. But I have some deep concerns that Shaw could be a drag on the Democratic ticket. He would have spent less time in Maine than anyone ever elected governor in the modern era, and he has barely enough years of residency to qualify for the ballot. As far as his positions on economic policy, Shaw has described himself as a University of Chicago guy and a strong believer in free markets. Adherents of the Chicago school staunchly believe in free market capitalism and reject Keynesian intervention to keep the economy to make it more fair for working people. There are folks within the Democratic Party for whom that's not their preferred means of economic delivery, but that's not how I view the world. At a town hall I attended in Belfast, Shaw complained that Maine's taxes are too high, and he's hesitant to make the tax code fairer in terms of shifting some of the burden to the wealthiest taxpayers and ensuring working class people don't pay higher rate of tax than millionaires. Recently, the pro-Shaw Super PAC 314 Action Fund released an ad funded by a PAC affiliated with Democrats for Education Reform, a New York-based school privatization group. Its focuses on expanding charter schools, creating school voucher programs, mandating more standardized tests, punishing teachers, and fighting teachers' unions. Maurice Cunningham, author of Dark Money and the Politics of School Privatization, noted that DFER is funded by Charles Koch and the Walton family, some of the most anti-worker oligarchs in America. The fact that their K-12 privateering front, Democrats for Education Reform, is pouring money into advertisements to elect Nivra Shah as governor of Maine should set off alarms, wrote Cunningham. 314 Action Fund's stated goal is to support Democrats with STEM backgrounds, but it has also been used as a front group for the Israeli lobby. 2024, AIPAC donated $1.3 million to 314 Action Fund to influence a congressional race in Oregon in 2020. In April, Dropside News reported that AIPAC was funneling money into 314 Action to support Dr. Alice Stanford's run for Congress in Pennsylvania. She was defeated by progressive Chris Rabb last week. Why would AIPAC be funding Dr. Shah? It's unclear, but there have been bills in the legislature to require the state to divest from weapons manufacturers associated with countries that commit human rights abuses. Israel would certainly fit the bill. I'm also worried that Shaw's past will come back to haunt him if he's the nominee. When he worked as Illinois public health director in right-wing Republican Governor Bruce Rayner's administration, a dozen veterans died in a Legionnaire's outbreak at a veterans home after drinking bacteria-contaminated water. They weren't diagnosed or given antibiotics quickly enough to fend off what typically is a treatable form of waterborne pneumonia. 11 families sued the state for negligence, and Senators Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth called on CHUD to resign. The senator said that CHUD deliberately withheld information that the veteran's home was in violation of health code from the public and did not cite the facility for a mistake. He cited documents in which CHUD detailed the dangerous presence at the facility. He noted the violations warranted a citation, yet chose not to issue one. Additional reports indicated that CHUD and other staff at Illinois Department of Public Health found Governor Rainier's office to be an obstacle in ensuring a prompt and comprehensive response to the deadly outbreaks and more focused on public perception. Can I just say, can I just be honest with you guys? Can I just be brutally honest with you guys? Edgermentum is slopulism. Edgermentum is slopulism. He is exactly part of the machine that I was talking about, where we don't have a serious movement, and it's not, you just have people going viral and kind of riding whatever the algorithm is. He's actually profoundly lazy in a way that is like actually damaging. And the other thing is, and this is the most important part, he's not competent. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And at a certain point, like, you know, I don't know what else to say. Like, saying Shaw should be a good candidate. The guy is a fucking Republican plant. He's Susan Collins Jr. This guy was so bad at such a corpo demon. The Warrenites, Pingree, and Bellows team with Troy to take him down. He's just fooling a lot of people right now by using the new corporate dem meta lie, like Bellows doing against Corey now by ripping the DSA platform and putting its name on it. Twilight Star, you need to post more in the chat because that was incredible. Speaking of posting more in the chat, I just realized something, chat. We are almost 4 hours into the stream, and I have not chilled for multiple days. And I don't know if you noticed, but because I forgot to chill, we may have lost some subs. So if you enjoy this content, please consider supporting it by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, that's that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime sub. I am so brain rotted. I thought you were going to say we are Charlie Kirk. Will that make you guys subscribe? Which is the one you guys like? Authentic music, by the way.
He stood unshaken, a voice in the storm, a man of conviction, a heart reborn. He spoke the truth when the cost was high. He lived for Jesus, unafraid to die. We are Charlie Kirk, we carry the flame, we'll fight for the gospel, we'll honor his name. We are Charlie Kirk, his courage our own, together unbroken, we'll make heaven known. A husband, a father, his family held near, a home built on scripture, on faith without fear. The world tried to silence, but his voice remains. Innocent echoes in Christ it sustains. We are Charlie Kirk, we carry the flame, we'll fight for the gospel, we'll honor his name. We are Charlie Kirk, his courage our own, together unbroken, we'll make heaven known.
Honestly, this is such a banger. Like, you know, I didn't think that AI could make music until We Are Charlie Kirk. You know, it's the exception that proves the rule that AI can't make music, and then this thing happened. We Are Charlie Kirk is a presumably AI-generated song credited to Splomexa that was released on September 16, 2025. Unbelievable. It's made in the power ballad genre of the 1980s in a runtime of 3 minutes and 44 seconds. Critical reception. It was panned by media outlets, with several writers labeling it as AI slop. Harrison Brocklehurst wrote for the Tab that it had cursed lyrics that had deserved to be mocked, but that it was stuck in his head. Referencing the vocal's loud delivery, he claimed the song was honestly one of the loudest things ever put to record. Kotaku writer Kenneth Streppard criticized it as one of the most ostentatious, dramatic pieces of music I've ever heard. Pace listed it as the worst song of 2025, describing it as a computer guessing what a serious song sounds like after being force-fed a slurry of megachurch anthems, right-wing martyr fantasies, and PragerU comment section. I mean, like, it is so bad it's good.
The battle is raging, the darkness will fall. We rise with the spirit, we answer the call. The truth is eternal, the cross is our guide. With God as our captain, we march side by side. We are Charlie Kirk, we carry the flame. We'll fight for the gospel, we'll honor his name. We are Charlie Kirk, his courage our own. Together unbroken, we'll make heaven known.
Have you guys been keeping up with the Charlie Kirk like conspiracies and whatnot? Because they're honestly, let me thank all the gifters, by the way. Eat More Truth is what is this? No. Picazo 1904, Spicy Larry, thank you for the 10. Bay 93, GT Buzzsaw, Purple Cherokee, GrizzCon, Socialism or Barbarism, Our Actual 10, or Muzzy, and Slurgo. Thank you guys so much for all the gifties. You guys rule. I really appreciate it. We are at 5869, chat. So close. So close to 6,000 again. This is my personal fave.
لا يتزعزع صوتا في العاصفة رجل قناعة وقلب ولد من جديد بال الحب.
They actually made Charlie Kirk look handsome in that. Holy shit! How many subs was that? 50 fucking subs! Who he streams? The 50 bomb. My God. Or Muzzy, thank you so much for the 10 tier 1s. And Terminally Brand Denies, thank you for the 10. Okay, we're done with the Charlie Kirk. You're like, oh, come on. We can't keep going. All right, what else did I want to talk about today? Oh, one of my favorite clips of all time.
You disavow your friend Hassan Piker for inciting riots outside Delaney Hall last weekend?
Oh, well, actually, I think that Delaney Hall is a disgrace. Will you disavow your friend Laura Loomer, who calls black women ghetto black bitches?
She doesn't mean that.
How does one not
And
mean
she's my
that?
friend, but we're talking about Hassan Piker.
No, I'm talking about Laura Loomer.
Can we talk about Hassan?
Black women ghetto black bitches. And you agree with that? Do you disavow that?
I mean,
because that's racist.
Pretty much
to work with
joking,
someone like that?
but
oh, that's not a joke.
No, but you think walking around
So that
with
means
a
that you
gas
think
mask
that I'm a ghetto
before
black
riots are cool? I never said that.
But
No,
she
I don't
says
think
it
so.
and
I
you
think
work with
you're a
her.
Congress member. I don't think that. But Hassan Piker, what do you think about Hassan Piker? You won't disavow Hassan Piker?
They actually posted that thinking they sounded good. I need to see the reverse. I need to see the Summer Lee vision. You know what I mean? The summer leave you. She cooked the fuck out of him. That's incredible. All right, Abdul went on MS Now.
If Democrats have any hope of winning control of the Senate this November, virtually every path involves holding each seat that they currently control.
All right, chat. Remember, the top sub-gifter and the top bit donor get the Hype Trade Conductor Badge right now. As little as 201 bits will get you that golden locomotive that you get to keep as a purple locomotive. And remember, we're only 98 levels away from level 111.
While flipping 4 Republican-held seats.
So that's probably only somewhere in the range of like 100,000 gifted subs, which is barely anything.
The states that they are currently defending is now Michigan, which MS Now rates as a toss-up. With the Democratic primary now less than a month away, the latest poll shows a statistical dead heat. Congresswoman Haley Stevens, a 4-term moderate, has the support of 42% of voters, according to a new Politico poll, while Abdul El Sayed, a progressive former public health official, gets the support.
All right. As I've said, all these primary polls, they're based on voting models that are not accurate. So if you see a progressive and they're within 5 points, they're gonna win. Okay. I would say that honestly, I think Abdul's gonna probably win by 10 if I had to guess. And the reason why I say that, you know, obviously we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks. The reason why I say that is Michigan had the biggest polling miss in U.S. history in 2016, Bernie Sanders versus Hillary Clinton. The biggest polling miss in history was in Michigan. So if there's any state where Haley Stevens, if she wanted to feel like she's got this in the bag, she probably needs to be up by like 15, at least. Delius Lama, they give it a 10. Hell yeah.
Of 41%. This is all well within the margin of error. And it is important to note that a full 18% in this survey say they are not sure who they'll support, which means this is a race that could flip at any moment. We have extended invitations to both of the Democratic candidates, and one of them joins me now, Abdul El Sayed, Democratic candidate for the United States Senate in Michigan. Abdul, thank you for joining us. I just laid out some of the polls, and I think a lot of people know that you had been leading in the polls when it was a 3-person race. But then after Mallory McMorrow dropped, Haley Stevens has closed in on you. So how are you going to win this race? Like, who is your coalition?
So thank you first for having me. And I just want to draw attention that poll wasn't from Politico. That poll seems to be funded by AIPAC, and they are really eager to generate this idea that somehow all of these voters who would have supported my past opponent, Mallory McMorrow, are now supporting the current opponent, Haley Stevens. But look,
can I make a point about that? I wanted to ask you about those kind of polls, but since you brought it up, I'm wondering because I have heard similar things about.
Oh yeah, that pollster is bullshit, by the way. First poll since May showing Stevens with the lead. From the website of this pollster, Tavern combines human expertise with rapid response AI to capture the true pulse of the electorate. You could just post whatever the fuck you want. Tavern Research specializes in opinion research, AI-powered content creation, message testing, and strategic insights. So this is a consulting firm. Do we have any good primary, like something that we can look at? Oh, LA mayoral primary, guys. Karen Bass leads with 22, followed by Spencer Pratt at 18 and Nithya Raman at 16. Corin and Hunt edge out packs. I mean, they just get everything. Oh my God, it's bad. Do they have more? So these guys they make AI polls. They're not very good. It's the hallucination machine. And the hallucination machine said that she's up 1. Cool.
A poll that you put out that showed
Michael Bennett 35. Bill Weisner 28. Guys, how'd that end up? How'd that end up? Oh. Oh my God, dude. So, massively outside the I think you guys got a miss there.
That you all were, I think it was something like 13 or 16 points ahead of Haley Stevens. I am somebody that knows intimately polls don't vote, people do. So I guess I take it back to whether the polls are being juiced or not. what is the coalition that you think you can put together to win in this primary?
Well, I'll tell you this, we're already putting it together. I've been up and down the state, 110 different cities now, 450 public events. And polling, you're right, is this really imperfect science. What really matters is who you can energize to bring out. Most polls agree that I am dominating the field among young people, 83-6 at this point. And then you have communities of color, whether that is the Black community in Detroit, where I served, or across Wayne County. That is communities of color, including the Latino community and the Arab and Muslim community. And then you have voters out in the rest of the state, folks who are affiliated with Indivisible. That's done an amazing job organizing. And then, of course, you have labor, dominant, mighty labor in Michigan. We've been proud to earn the endorsement of the UAW, endorsements of the AFT and the National Nurses United, and the vast majority of labor members in the state of Michigan. And more importantly, right, we are having a conversation every single day with folks who are asking, how do we come together to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, pass Medicare for all? As we all know, in 2024, unfortunately, Michigan went to Donald Trump. And that was because we could not keep a group together that included a lot of those, quote unquote, undecided or middle voters. I don't know that middle is the right term, but I do know that there are a lot of people who've been alienated by politics on both sides of the aisle, and we're reaching out to them to actually talk about what it looks like to bring people back to the center of our politics rather than be dominated by corporations, which, unfortunately, whether you're talking about Haley Stevens or Mike Rogers, tend to be funded that way.
You know, the point you made about 2024, I mean, Michigan elected Donald Trump, but also sent Alyssa Slotkin to the United States Senate, so there were clearly some split-ticket voters. I want to go back to the coalition piece here, because when you look at like what Trump did in, which I have thoughts about, what he did in Michigan, Detroit turnout was a little bit softer, right? Macomb County was more Republican. Rural counties definitely maxed out. There were working class voters that moved to the right. And then the Democratic margins among Black men and young people were slightly smaller than what they needed to be. So I called up a lot of Black folks in Michigan today that I know. I've worked a lot of campaigns in my former life. And I talked to some people that are squarely in your camp. I've talked to some people that said they are not in your camp. And I've talked to some people that said, look, either one could get elected. One of the things that I heard is that some people are hesitant to support you because you didn't support Kamala Harris in 2024. Like, what are you trying to do to bring people together?
Can I just address that straight up?
Yeah.
I definitely endorsed Vice President Harris in 2024. I endorsed her
Why are they saying
the
you
day
didn't?
after she was the nominee. Yeah, well, it's some mis and disinformation. Look, when the other side has $40 million of AIPAC money to spend, they move a lot of disinformation. You know, I got the receipts to prove it. The truth of the matter is I endorsed her, even though I had endorsed uncommitted, because at the end of the day, whether you saw this election from the eyes of a child in Detroit or the eyes of a child in Gaza, Vice President Harris would have been so much better. And I spent a lot of time both on the phone with leaders in the Arab and Muslim community, in basements and living rooms, having conversations about just how crazy Donald Trump really would be in a second term, and having conversations with the Harris campaign about why they needed to move on policy regarding the Middle East. Unfortunately, the outcome was a catastrophe. It was one of the most frustrating 3-month periods of my whole life. I learned a lot in that period, and I bring that to this work. I think anybody who wants to divide us about what happened in the past is missing the opportunity to bring us together for the future. And I'll tell you, as the first Arab or Muslim leader in Michigan to endorse Vice President Harris, I really want our party to recognize that we were wrong on that issue, and we have an opportunity to get right on principles moving forward.
I have to say, you know, because again, I talked to a lot of different people today, and I think that the piece that I was hearing about the support or lack thereof for Vice President Harris in 2024 comes from a place where people are like, I don't really know him that well. I heard a lot of folks say to me that, you know, you're very charismatic, you give a great speech, but that they haven't seen you in their communities, particularly, and these were I talked to some young Black leaders and some older Black leaders. Now, the folks that I talked to that have decided that they are in your camp said, look, they like what you are talking about. So it seems to me that you are cobbling together an important coalition, but is this a coalition you think that can make the difference in this primary race? That 18, I know we cited that one poll, but there are a lot of people that still haven't made up their mind, and a month is a very long time.
A month is a very long time in politics. I will tell you this, I served the city of Detroit as health director, rebuilt the health department in the city, and then served Wayne County as director of health, human, and veteran services. In this race, I by far have the dominant service record in these communities. Now, you always have more work to do to introduce yourself in the new role you hope to hold as U.S. Senator. But I also know that we have a message that's real. Right now, a lot of the impact in this race is the $40 million of outside spending that is being done on behalf of AIPAC and corporate PACs for my opponent. And they are using that to mis and disinform the public, both about her record and mine. And that's unfortunate because, well, I don't take corporate money and I don't ask AIPAC, certainly, to fund their campaign. There's a reason that they are hammering us with attack ads right now. They've called me the most dangerous candidate for the U.S.-Israel relationship. And that's because I have the audacity to believe that Palestinians have equal rights to peace, dignity, and self-determination. And so what a lot of people are seeing is my opponent on their TV screens or attack ads against me. But when you look at my record, putting glasses on kids, eliminating medical debt, making sure to show up for folks in the moments of their lives when their health is at risk, I'll take my record over just about anybody when it comes to serving the city and Wayne County. So I look forward to continuing to share that over the next month. We have 10,000 volunteers knocking doors up and down the city, up and down the county, and we're continuing to build that coalition brick by brick, the old-fashioned way, having real conversations with people instead of asking AIPAC and corporations to buy ads for me.
AIPAC came up a lot at last night's debate. The other thing that came up that really sparked my curiosity, because I watched it, I didn't watch it live, but I did watch it this morning, is that Haley Stevens has been criticizing you for not releasing your personal finance disclosure until after the primary. The former strategist in me is like, why not just release it and take her talking point away?
We absolutely will, and we intend to. Sometimes finances are complicated, and I can only control what I can control. And unfortunately, when it comes to tax documents, sometimes they're really complicated to get. We are absolutely going to release it before the primary. But this is all a distraction from the fact that her campaign finances are a real problem. You think about the money she's taken. Right now, there are people who are going to bed without electricity for the 5th night in a row because of the failure, the debacle that is our utility DTE. She's taking $37,500 for them. What do you think that buys? You think about the impact when it comes to taking corporations' money from big tech and whether or not she's going to stand up when it comes to AI or someone trying to put a data center in your backyard. So the question is not about my personal finances. It's about the finances of the corporations and the billionaires she will make rich if, in fact, she's elected as their next U.S. Senator.
I guess I just want, like, why not just take her talking point away? I mean, are the disclosures going to say that you're rich? And if you are, okay.
You know, I'm a public servant who spent my career trying to build health departments and lead in the bowels of Wayne County and the city of Detroit. We are going to certainly drop that as soon as we get those documents in order. So it is not, frankly, a matter of not wanting to. It's just a matter of trying to wrangle together documents.
All right. Send them to me when you get them.
We certainly will.
Abdul Sayed, thank you for joining us.
I do want to make
tonight.
sure, though. You know, I do want to make sure, though, when you do have her on, just make sure you ask her about her and her mother's trip to Portugal. It's an interesting story.
Now, I want to be clear. I got some other questions I wanted to ask you, and I think there's questions for both of y'all. And at the end of the day, I really do want to talk to Congresswoman Stevens. At the end of the day, I think it's really about the coalitions. And you got to put together the family in a primary, and then you got to keep the family together in a general and ad. And the question is, which one of you is better positioned to do that? And the Michigan voters are going to make their voice heard on August 4th. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you soon.
I know I've said it a lot, but it cannot possibly emphasize enough to outsiders how invisible the Stevens ground game is. It just doesn't exist. If it wasn't for TV, I'd have no idea she even had a campaign. I've never seen a statewide campaign so absent on the ground. Yeah, because she's fucking a controlled opposition fascist being promoted by the oligarchy in the Israeli state, whereas Abdul El Sayed represents the actual people of Michigan. And the only way I actually think it's impossible for her to win. I don't think it's possible for her to win. Like, there's really nothing more to say. It's so fun that Mish voter blocked me for making fun of him for being a Mallory McMorrow stan who was spreading disinformation about Abdul, and now he's pivoting to being pro Abdul. What the fuck even is this, other than being silly and wrong? Haley has been all over the state. Maybe you should start paying more attention instead of making shit up. I don't think he has any idea what he's so pissed about. He thinks a population explosion equals mass murder and genocide, and that thousands of year-old Jewish cuisine is appropriation. So he seems a bit confused. A genocide that exponentially multiplies the population. No, wait, that doesn't sound right at all. Because being against genocide is pro-terror, LOL. It doesn't matter how many times you say it. Losing in a war you started is not genocide. You drastically inflate Hamas's drastically inflated numbers, and you talk about bias. Also, losing a war you started is not genocide, nor is your invented word genocide. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Like, every single person who supports Haley Stevens is a fucking, is a fucking Zionist. It is controlled opposition fascism. The type of guy who will be an ultra in 2 years and criticizes you for being a liberal. I mean, God, unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. All right, I wanted to cover this story because it was crazy.
The two remaining Senate candidates for the Democratic primary in Michigan met for a debate this week. Abdul El-Sayed pressed his opponent, Haley Stevens.
Mike, can you give us plain autist a snack? Flight school pilot jumps to his death midair, leaving student to land plane. That's not what you should do. That's pretty bad. You shouldn't do that. That's one way to do your first solo. Oh my God. Like, I think you're ready to solo this plane. Bye. That's such a dick thing to do.
On her fealty to Israel and her contributions from AIPAC. Let's take a listen to that.
The congresswoman needs to answer is, why has she allowed $40 million of outside spending, the bulk of it coming from AIPAC, to come into this race? I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu is attacking her to actually attack her. I think he's attacking her to try and steer away the stink of how staunchly she stands for their policy. So let's take that opportunity. Explain what you've given away for AIPAC support in this race.
30 seconds to wrap up. No one owns my vote and no one owns my policies. Anyone who is contributing to my Senate campaign is doing so because of my proven record of fighting for Michigan. What I did when I served as chief of staff on the U.S. Auto Rescue, saving 200,000 Michigan jobs, and what I have done to get the CHIPS and Science Act passed and signed into law. What my opponent needs to answer is, why is the GOP spending thousands of dollars to prop up his campaign, saying that he will make Mike Rogers the next U.S. Senator?
By the way, Haley Stevens' work on the auto bailout is, in fact, her top calling card for that primary, because it's extremely popular. What Rahm Emanuel said, we should just let Detroit go bankrupt, and he was overruled by Obama.
I thought that was Romney. He wrote that op-ed.
Romney, it really hurt Romney. It destroyed,
I remember. It destroyed his campaign.
2012 campaign, but internally, Rahm Emanuel had said, just don't do it. There was a big fight over it, and Haley Stevens, to her credit, was on the side of, we need to implement a bailout for Detroit.
Right, but UAW endorsed Abdul El-Sayed.
UAW, yes, that's a key point. So her number one thing is undercut by the fact that the UAW is behind El-Sayed. Now, if you noticed in there, Abdul El-Sayed is referring to Netanyahu.
He says gross stuff about the Platner story. Yeah, I yelled at them and they deleted it.
Attacking her.
Mike, are you going to watch France versus Morocco today? I'm bummed out. Morocco has been having a great tournament. I don't want a European team to win, but I'd much rather Mbappe and France win than everyone hates Argentina. The goal is destroy Argentina. Okay? Fuck Argentina. Destroy Argentina. We've got to get rid of Argentina. Okay, we watched this already, but I'll do it again.
And in the United States Congress, I will continue to fight for the people of Israel. I will continue to fight for Israel's existence. Israel comes to me in my dreams. I see Israel's future, and I know that Israel will continue to exist for the Jewish people. I love you all so very much. Happy Hanukkah. Thank you.
I heard, so she's not Jewish, right? Like, I thought Haley Stevens was Jewish, but it turns out she's not Jewish. She's Jew-ish. Like, what's his face? The scammer? George Santos? Yeah, Jew-ish. Israel comes to you in your dreams. This is psychopathic shit. This is legitimately psychopathic shit. I don't understand how this is real. All right.
Something extraordinarily interesting happened earlier that day, right before the debate, that people are frustrated about and suggesting that was coordinated. So let's play this clip of Netanyahu on CNN with Dana Bash.
Congresswoman Haley Stevens, she's running for Senate in Michigan, said Benjamin Netanyahu has made us less safe. He has frankly put Jews in an uncomfortable position across the country. Have you?
Well, it's made her uncomfortable because she can't stand up for the truth. She's trying to probably excuse anti-Semitism. You know,
she's not. She's. I mean, I just want to explain.
The controlled opposition, bro, she got $17 million from AIPAC to run against a Jewish rep who is critical of Israel. The idea that she is like some enemy of Israel is so fucking, like, these people are fucking evil, man. They are fucking evil.
She's somebody who supports Israel. She supports funding Israel, which is diminishing big time among Democrats and even some Republicans in the United States Congress.
It is very clear that Mr. Netanyahu has not made us safer, has not brought us closer to peace, and he's endangered Jews here in America and around the world. This is why he was just trashing me today on CNN. I am not afraid of bullies. I am not afraid to stand up, and I continue to stand up for humanitarian aid, for the U.S. to work with the countries in the region and get aid into Gaza.
And so, Sagar, in the lead into that question, Dana Bash had said a lot of Jewish leaders here in the United States believe that, you know, your behavior is making Jews in America less safe. For instance, Haley Stevens has said X.
This is the new line, by the way, is that this Rahm Emanuel Haley Stevens line is it's Bibi's fault.
Right.
It's all about Bibi.
Right.
Yeah. Israel is good, but Bibi is bad.
But Haley Stevens, by the way, is not Jewish.
Right.
A lot of people have made the claim that Dana Bash is talking about, and frankly, I think she's correct about it. Why did she pick Haley Stevens, who is not Jewish, as a stand-in for Jewish leaders in the United States?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Because she had a debate that night against Abdul El-Sayed. Stevens repeatedly referenced Netanyahu attacking her in that debate. It was her biggest defense against the fact that AIPAC is spending millions of dollars to support her. And so even I think Politico reported on this in a rather straightforward like way, is calling out the cynicism of it, that of how direct the links seem to be, that this was being weaponized on her behalf.
Right. So yeah, just zoom out. Right. Is that Dana Bash asked the question about Haley Stevens. Bibi attacks her. Stevens uses that attack as a direct link and as a direct retort in the debate against Al-Sayed's most potent attack against her.
And maybe Dana Bash,
a Democratic primary.
Yeah, maybe Dana Bash didn't know there was a debate that night. Right. Maybe it was a coincidence. In any event, it was a very fortunate turn of events for Haley Stevens. Now, she also takes an enormous amount of corporate money, and Abdul El-Sayed hit her on that. Let's roll D3.
To get their way. And now you can buy a cheap TV, but you can't find a manufacturing job that can actually feed your family. That is the devastation of corporate-bought politics. As the only candidate who's never taken a dime from a corporation, you know I'm going to stand up for you. It's the reason. Again, the UAW, nurses, AFT have all supported us, because when it comes to the choice between working people and corporations, I will pick people every time.
Yeah, and it's the only reason you haven't released your tax returns. All right, and 15 labor unions are...
I mean, like, it is so transparent. It is such a transparent bullshit, garbage-ass, controlled opposition. Like, it almost, like, this actually makes me sick to my stomach. Like, legitimately, the way that the political system is moving, the way that everybody's just integrity has been completely annihilated by this genocide, the way that the media are just folding, it's almost unbelievable.
I yield, Rick. Yes.
Amber has another. Sure, go ahead. Respond quickly, very quickly.
Yeah, I took the same extension that the Congresswoman took every single year she was in Congress.
I'm talking about your tax returns, Abdul. You haven't released your tax returns. All right, you don't need an extension to do that.
There's a process.
Who's putting money in your pocketbook?
All right, so she's hitting him on having a filthy rich spouse, basically, and he hasn't, put his tax returns out. And filthy rich people have very complicated tax returns.
That's true.
But also they have very embarrassing tax returns in a country that purports to believe in some sort of egalitarianism.
Right. Seeing on paper if you ever look at a super rich person's taxes,
they're like this.
They're, first of all, it's like a book. But the top line where you see income and then you see what they pay, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, you got to keep what?
Right.
What?
Right.
What was that exactly?
Wait, I thought we had a progressive taxation system. How is?
You're like, wait, your effective tax rate's 15% and mine's like 40? You know, it's like, well,
Trump unironically starts the Hunger Games. Outstanding young Americans from across the nation will soon come to Washington, D.C. to compete, inspire, and showcase the values that have shaped the United States for nearly 250 years with a massive prize on the line. $250,000. Apply by tomorrow? What? Apply by tomorrow? Is this real? Like, what? It's been out for a while. I feel like I feel like this is gonna be a phishing link. All right, guys, can I yell at the Pod Save America guys real quick?
Like, if you can't identify the systematic murder of tens of thousands of kids as a genocide, and then you want to say that you're a fighter for human rights and dignity, that's just hypocrisy. So I just think that if you can't call the most heinous violation of human rights what it is, it's hard for me to believe that you're going to go and fight the Trump administration.
I think Abdul is describing the reality of how this debate is unfolding, but that is in part because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris left such a massive hole, both in terms of the policy and any kind of larger framework or message or story about what a progressive defense of support for Israel might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for a lot of progressive voters in the U.S., especially young people, it's kind of just like a threshold question about your credibility. If you can't look at what's happening in Gaza and say that's wrong and say we shouldn't be funding a genocide or sending more weapon systems with a blank check over to Israel, then they don't believe you on anything else. And frankly, things have gotten worse since then because we had the war with Iran. And so I do think this is going to continue to be a huge issue in Democratic primaries in this cycle, but also in 28.
Yeah, this is where I do think like the ways in which I think pro-Israel Democrats or historically pro-Israel Democrats have been, I think, really like caught flat-footed and surprised by the level of intensity and importance that this issue has now taken.
They've been surprised. Oh, what? People are against the genocide of children using our tax dollars and our military and our intelligence services and our diplomatic services and our military industrial complex and our reputation. Oh, normally we would happily feast on the bones of children.
And you have seen a lot of those Democrats shift, right? You had Bernie and Chris Murphy putting up resolutions about cutting off offensive military aid to Israel, and the number of Democrats being willing to support that ticking up. But in the absence, I think, of a clear articulation of a view on Israel that concedes the substance of the, I think, valid moral critique of U.S. military support for Israel and its conduct of the war in Gaza, but that talks about a position on settlements, that talks about a position on the future of Gaza, two-state solution, whether or not that is still something that is plausible, what it looks like to actually fight for something like that, what it looks like to hold Israel accountable, right? Like, it is true what Abdul says in that video, that if you can't call what Israel has done in Gaza a genocide, then you are failing this moral test. But there are no politicians right now saying something like, I believe Israel's conduct of the war is horrific. I think that they've committed ethnic cleansing. There are genocidal members of that administration. I will leave the definition of genocide to others, but I'll tell you, we will make sure.
They think that's going to work. They legitimately think that's going to work. They think that's going to work. Well, I don't know if it's a genocide. I'll leave that to others, but I like Israel, huh? You think that's going to work? God, tell Pete. Tell Pete and John Ossoff that's the way they should run. Tell all the guys that you line up with, Pete Buttigieg and John Ossoff and Gavin Newsom. Yeah, let them try that strat. Please.
That the West Bank is safe for Palestinians, and we will remove settlements as part of any deal. We will
remove settlements in the West Bank. I think they think we're stupid. They really think we're stupid. They think we know fucking nothing. Removing settlements from the West Bank at this point will require a military level intervention. There is no two-state solution possible. It has to be one state. It has to get rid of the supremacism of the Israeli state, the Jewish supremacists, the idea that there is going to be an ethno-state. That has to go away. It has to be a democracy with equal rights and a Truth and Reconciliation Commission and reparations. and a right of return for refugees that have been waiting for decades to return to their homes. And where that's completely impossible, heavy reparations must be paid to those families and war criminals prosecuted. That's the most moderate position. The extreme position, we can't even talk about. The idea you're going to have two states, that's not plausible. They set settlers, and they have weaved settlements, and they have stolen so much land and built so much infrastructure, you'd have to demolish the entire West Bank to rip them out.
Off any funding for Israel until it has withdrawn to the borders, right? Like there is a full-throated pro-Palestinian position that acknowledges Israel's right to exist and defend itself that I think could reflect the values Abdul's talking about. But right now it just doesn't exist. There's no one really espousing that position that I'm hearing.
So there's now some reporting on the main Democrat. I mean, they're just lost. They're just lost. The main Democratic Party's county delegate breakdown has been privately distributed for the Platner process. So the most are from Cumberland County with 50 alternates. Democracy at work. Overturn the will of the voters and have the establishment choose your candidate instead. I mean, it is what it is, man. Graham Platner dropped out. He could have stayed in. He decided to drop out. There has to be a replacement on the ballot. So, you know, everybody being like, oh, we're definitely going to lose. We're definitely going to lose, and it's got to be an AIPAC CHUD. Can you stop surrendering and giving up before the fight? Chat, I'm tired. One of the most important things with any struggle is the concept of morale. I don't hear morale spoken of enough in left-wing organizing spaces and in general, which is belief, which is the feeling of we can do this, we can win. Because people in the same situation, if they don't believe they can do anything, then they won't even try. But that same group of people, if they believe they can win and they try, they have a chance of succeeding. So whenever somebody's out there spreading negativity that draws down morale that's not even really based on anything other than naked cynicism, they're hurting the movement. I'm not saying lie. I'm not saying trick each other. I'm not saying be delusional. But what I am saying is if you have nothing to say that's not contributing new information and just putting your anxiety on everybody else, then try shutting the fuck up. This is one of the biggest motivators for having ranked choice voting, replacing. Oh, I mean, there was only two candidates, man. It would be Janet Mills. The fact that we're not just putting in Janet Mills is already a W for us, right? Because they could have just said, okay, top candidate is dropping out. We're going to number 2. Janet Mills, congratulations, you win. But the fact that they're not doing that is good. That gives us an opportunity to try to work this system to our advantage, right? They're setting up a system. And there are candidates that are roughly aligned with us that we could slot in. Mills said she didn't want to run. Hope. She's so unpopular, it's embarrassing. Well, chat, I'm going to call it a little bit early today. We're going to have a lot more fun going forward. Thanks so much for hanging with me. Here's all my links. It's obviously been a disappointing week. There's no doubt about it. But we're going to be fine. We're going to be absolutely fine. Graham Platner is going to go away, and then we'll move on to, hopefully we'll work our asses off to get somebody decent in there, and everything will be right as rain. The underlying fundamental structures of what's going on in this country has not changed. The left is ascendant. Graham Platner was a black eye. He'll go away and he'll be forgotten, and we will move on, and it'll be a good lesson. It's a lesson to learn. A painful lesson is that we need to have the support. And Gramsci's homegirl, thank you for the 50 bomb, by the way, if I didn't thank you. We need to have the support of an actual socialist organization that is capable of developing new cadre candidates. We need to have people running for state legislature and having people run for Congress so that when these opportunities like the main Senate race arise, we will have people worthy of the movement. And we won't be so desperate for anybody who raises their voice. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. Free Palestine. And of course, socialism will win.